So let it be written. So let it be done. This is Tabletop Terrors. And we're going to play some D&D 5th edition. My name is Tim, and I am here with some incredible people. But before we start to play, I want to tell you that right now, A Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin is live on Kickstarter, and that is the first link that you will see in the description of this video. It is set in Dragongrin. The game session is going to take place in Dragongrin tonight. So we're very excited. This Kickstarter has only been a reality because of you, and we thank you for your support. If you have not backed yet, you still have time to do it. So this is Those That Remain, a D&D 5th edition campaign, and I'm here with my incredible friends. Guys, let's do some very quick introductions. I want to say hi to the chat. I'm going to start on my right, which is Mr. Nate Vanderzee.
Yeah, I am Nate, and I am playing Garrick Brownleaf, who is a warlock, and I'm excited to be back at it here in the wicked, vicious land of Dragongrin.
All right, Mr. Matt Click.
Hey everyone, I'm Matt, and I am playing Ephraim Seidler, who is a rogue. I just forgot what the archetype is. Arcane Trickster. And he lost an eye last session, so this should be interesting. Looking forward to playing. Back us on Kickstarter.
Brockus Helm. Back us on Brockus Helm. Next is James Carney.
You know, I had to come up eventually in the order, I guess. I'm James, Tim's brother, brand new homeowner. If you guys didn't know, that's really exciting. Almost couldn't find my character sheet. That's probably the most interesting thing that happened to me all day. It's Friday. Very excited to play some D&D. Back us on Kickstarter. I think somebody else said that, but it needs to be said again.
Finally, but certainly not leastly, even though lastly, it is Barker.
Hey everybody, welcome to Be a Better Game Master, my 30-day world. Oh, sorry, I was a little I need to catch up. I'm a little bit behind, but that's okay because you can be a little bit behind and jump right in right now and do my 30-day world as we kickstart this Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin, which I don't think anyone's mentioned so far in the introductions. I think make sure you back Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin on Kickstarter. Today I am playing Jeremiah Diggs, who is a former servant of the Dismembered Lord and a fighter at heart and a fighter on the sheet. And he is anxious to lead his companions to safety, wherever that exists.
Let's jump in. Wired awake. Hit with a hand of broken nails. Pulled my chain. Blood boils. Too cold to start a fire. I'll take the river down to still water. This is what is scrawled on the rock that must have been placed there by the last person who shared this campsite with you. Who knows what it means? Who knows if you'll ever know what it means? About a week has passed since you slew the lycanthrope at the Red Sail Market, just outside of Blint. I mean, at least you think it's been a week. Sometimes you can lose count of the sunrises and sunsets. And what happened there at Blint, what's happened these last couple of months, the cost has been different for everyone. Ephraim paid with an eye. These burgeoning magical abilities growing stronger. a little more wild, but also more controlled. And honestly, for as much blood as he spilled, he's still no closer to knowing who his father is or what has become of his hometown of Cregan Tree. Diggs paid with his secrets. It was revealed pretty unceremoniously that what appeared to be his wife and his son were simply pretending, playing a role people set up to cover and hide Diggs. By whom? And for what purpose? We don't know. Diggs also paid with his flesh, being bitten by the lupine abomination. Garrick paid with his optimism and perhaps a bit of his naivety. Granted this terrifying, apocalyptic vision by his patron, the Lady of the Wood, he was charged with stopping this creature, this thing only known as Magog. He'll likely fail. And finally, Rudy. Rudy paid with his self-control, using his arcane abilities in a destructive and wounding fashion for the first time in a very long time. Parts of his past are beginning to surface, as ugly as they may be. The four of you, weary from travel, have made your way into the Grips. The Grips are these mountains that you are in. They are known for their mineral deposits, their strange, unnatural occurrences, and of course, the ogres that call them home. But also for the Scrape, a stretch of ancient relics left behind by the oldest war against the mighty Titans and the Primordials. You all sit around a campfire as the sun slowly begins to set. You nestle into what comfort the Grip can offer you.
Jeremiah Diggs mutters under his breath to anyone who might hear it. The mountains will keep us safe soon. Soon. There's cover in the mountains.
Cover for us and cover for things that know the mountains a lot better than us. I don't like not being able to see around every corner.
You'd get a stern eye from Jeremiah Diggs. You venture out much?
I'm more used to towns, cities, things like that. And I would look at you, Diggs, with my one eye, and you would see the scar still raw and red beneath the cloth that I wrapped around my head. But I trust you.
I'm just happy to not have a sword in my gut. And Rudy would probably be munching on some sort of trail ration, something like that. And would feel probably a bit of guilt for Ephraim's, this raw eye that he has, this loss that he sustained. Even Rudy, having been through as much as he has, almost dying, literally on the brink of death. At least at this time, he's the sort that would prefer the trouble to be on him than anyone else, even these companions he hasn't known for that long.
Garrick looks at Diggs and says, "The mountains sound good to me."
Diggs nods, looks back to Ephraim and nods at, the scar that you showed and that thing that you had said, and says, well, wherever you learned it from, smart folk is all. He looks to the mountains. Aye, there are things that await. And he'll actually look to anyone else and bring up that maybe there might be a better option. He knows that we're at the grip, that we've planned to take this route, but if we're ever going to turn back, now's the time.
And potentially kind of seeing this, Rudy sort of reassures Diggs almost offhandedly. I'll take the mountains before I'll take the plains any day. Easier to avoid the Marrow, and like you said, potentially harder to see anything, but harder to be seen. Well, hard to be seen is what Dragon Grid needs, or at least if you want to survive.
It was being out in the open that got Kathleen killed. So maybe it's time for a change of scenery. I'm with you, Diggs.
Me too. These days, I need someone to follow.
You hear muffled voices, but you can't tell exactly from where because of the echoes of the cavern, the walls, the mountains that surround you, the forest. It's difficult to tell, but you do hear voices.
Are they human voices? Like, do they seem at a normal pitch and volume?
They do.
I would sort of hold up my hand as we're speaking, and sort of as the conversation dies down, I would look at Diggs and say, "You hear that? Someone's talking. Voices not too far away."
Diggs would kind of stretch out his neck, try to get a better listen to what was on the wind, but he'd keep an eye on Ephraim, and perhaps even Garrick, just the two that might be able to hear the best.
The voices continue, and it sounds like a conversation, sort of that pitch and rhythm where there's a call and response. It's too muffled to make out exactly what they're saying, but you can tell that there's some sort of back and forth.
I would look to the other three, and sort of my hand would stray sort of absently to the short sword on my hip, and I would say, "I can get a closer look."
Rudy, that would sort of nod quietly, knowing that there's a conversation happening sort of around this, area.
So if no one stops him, Ephraim would creep closer to the conversation, trying to be stealthy while doing so, to try and, if not see who's talking, be able to hear the conversation.
Sure. So give me some sort of check. I need to make sure that you're able to sneak up without making noise here.
So that's 13 on the die, and stealth is +8, so 21.
Ooh, almost a dirty 20. So at a 21, you're able to get closer. It's not too far from where you're camped out, but there's a clearing, and there's sort of this flat, so a nice open space on the side of the mountain. And what you can see is that there's actually a handful of people. They look like commoners, very dirty, bedraggled, and they seem to be putting sort of these bits of flowers and perhaps even I'm trying to think of the word. It's not memorabilia. You don't put memorabilia at a gravesite. you put your rookie.
Got the sweet dismembered Lord statue signed.
It's pewter. No, so mementos is what I was trying to figure out. And they're sort of doing this, and you can see that this place is very familiar to you, and it sort of hits you for a second. This is the scene of another crucifixion. You're looking at 4 crosses, but from the looks of it, the 4 who were crucified here weren't as lucky as you. and these people seem to be trying to remember them.
So it seems like all of these people are they're commoners basically paying their respects to these people who were crucified.
Correct. Yeah.
So I stick around long enough to make sure that there's nothing else going on, making sure that there's no that there's not another Donovan Stain who's nearby doing this. And once I sort of make sure that that's all that's happening, I will creep back to my companions and fill them in. I say, nothing to worry about. Looks like some poor bastards got crucified up there. Some farmers just paying their respects. We can easily bypass them.
It was always best if we move along without a single word.
And if we do that, as we do that, can Diggs take a peek up at the crucified bodies and see if he recognizes anybody? Maybe.
Sure. Yeah. So you
He
tell
doesn't.
me. Okay, I was going to say you can tell me because it's difficult to tell. It looks like these people were crucified on the dawn of truth about the same time you guys were, and it's been about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's looking pretty bad. It looks like, from what Diggs can see, that these people are just now perhaps scraping up the courage to even visit the site and maybe take down some of the bodies and do that.
Yep. Diggs he squints his eyes, tries to get a clearer look in the distance at these bodies, but he can't see them amidst the carrion that's pecking at the rotting flesh, and you just can't quite see their faces. But he moves along and winces in pain at the wound location where he was where he contracted his. I actually don't know if he knows if he contracted it, but.
And so, with where you're standing, Diggs, you notice out of the corner of your eye, someone who's essentially peeing into the woods, and they are standing there like a statue, trying not to be noticed by you. So as you see this scene happening, you see this person who snuck away to take a whiz, and as you're sort of peeking, what they see is this 7-foot tall, muscular person sort of skulking, and so they're just standing there, and the only sound that can be heard is probably a drip.
This person stands before me, and I imagine everybody else frozen. Is this someone we recognize? I would look to Rudy, because I think Diggs would be surprised if Rudy didn't make a joke.
And Rudy, sort of depending on the humor he was in at this stage, having just potentially run out of rations on this trail, and I feel like he would be unusually respectful of the dead hero of these people that were crucified, and not necessarily draw attention to the person that was maybe being disrespectful, as Rudy would see it, peeing in the woods near such an important site. But this would certainly be outside of his normal actions to someone like Diggs.
Garrick would kind of whisper to the rest of you, saying, 4 of them, 4 of us, well, was 5, I suppose, but I want to be away from here quickly.
Ephraim would nod in agreement with Garrick, clearly uncomfortable being this close to another crucifixion, and Even though it was only, a few days ago, it seems like a lifetime ago to Ephraim, and he isn't keen to relive these moments.
A voice calls out. What are you doing? Come over here and join us. Please. What's the matter? And this young man who was just urinating is looking at you, Diggs. He's looking at you like for permission. He's trying to get this social cue of, did we see each other or not? He's kind of just standing there.
So I think at this point, it might dawn on Diggs. Does this person recognize Diggs?
Not at all. The scene here is they happen to be here. You happen to be here. You wandered over and he just was like taking a leak. I think he's just more super surprised to see this enormous bearded man in the woods, because in Dragon Grin, that could mean, hey, we're going to be captured and murdered. It rarely means, oh, totally. Fellow adventurers. So you don't know this person as far as you know. It's just like, whoops.
Totally. So in that case, as he was waiting for Rudy to say his joke, I mean, Diggs has his weapon up. It's a little bit of maybe a standoff for a moment. I had a stupid joke to make. In A Dead Man's Guide to Dragon Grin, in the random encounter roll table, there's dude peeing in the woods. That's number 100, and that's exactly what got rolled. No.
You rolled on it.
Listen,
rolled right on that.
Sandbox,
I rolled. It said Bay caught me peeing.
But yeah, Diggs go ahead. Diggs looks to you, Rudy.
So Rudy, sort of upon that, again, maybe uncharacteristically for him, sort of this dichotomy of who people expect he might be and who people he would be, sort of chides this young man, I say young, but this bearded man. Don't you have any respect for the dead, son? And he yells at him, likely in an attempt to potentially draw attention away from us and more kind of put the sort of onus on this person to respond, potentially trying to pass without much effort.
And so you hear, Nate got me in the chat. So you hear, who's there? Who's there? Jonas, are you pissing? And so
Jonas, huh? That's what Diggs would say. Jonas, huh? Like he knows his name now, almost like intimidating.
Right. Yeah. And so his eyes widen even wider. He's just, and so another small, unassuming man, bald, but for the sides of his head, approaches. Who's there? Have you come to pay your respects?
Just passing here, stranger, but of course respects are everything we'd give. Sort of kind of handing out a passing respect for the dead, but not lingering, is sort of what Rudy would do, not trivializing the dead on such a day. I forgot what you called it, but the holiday of the crucifixion.
Yeah. The dawn of truth is when
the dawn of truth. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is like
exactly. So not trivializing the dawn of truth, but still like as every, person of Dragon Grin would give respect, but still just passing. We know these people kind of thing.
Yes, stranger. My name is Mathias. Come and join us. You may pay your respects. We have a little food. We're willing to share. If you're friends, not foe.
And Rudy almost looking to the rest of the party. Friends we are, but respect we'll pay in passing unless... And kind of look to the rest of his party depending on how hungry they were.
You'd see Diggs just licking his lips. That's all. He doesn't say a word.
We do have quite a journey ahead of us, Rudy. Ephraim would say like sort of out loud, but clearly just directed at Rudy. Maybe we should pay our respects as common people do.
Then, of course, friends we are, and we shall partake what is reasonable for you. What have you? And Rudy would make some sort of gesture as he spoke to this person. In my mind, the thing I want to do is like a sort of a salute, but something nicer, like as though when you walk past these crucified people, a thing you sort of give them, almost the Dragongrin equivalent of the cross or the Aquila from Warhammer, like a thing, like, oh yeah, I do the thing, and then go to them respectfully.
Sure. And I think just off the cuff, it would maybe be like clasping your fist and, putting it on your chest and like bowing or something, like something.
Exactly.
Really
like just
that.
Giving that respect to the dead to engage with these people.
Yeah. Excellent. And, you could see, again, it doesn't look like there's any sort of ambush or anything. Very common people. They look unarmed at first glance, unless they're hiding weapons. And so, yes. And so, he kind of returns it to you and Jonas, make yourself proper. And so Jonas stows himself and, this man begins to sort of, he turns to these bags, these satchels that have some sorts of food and sustenance in them. And he starts to sort of take them out and, how many of you are there? You could tell that that's a loaded question. He sort of wants to know for other reasons as well.
And Rudy would speak up. Well, there's some coming behind us, but I think for now it's just the few of us. And he would sort of make, but just that general kind of, hey, maybe there's some friends we have near us, coming, but would say just the few of us for now.
I count as 2. And he lets the joke linger on the air.
And Garrett goes, is that for food? Are you that hungry?
And Rudy would likely nervously laugh, like, we're not going to eat all your chicken, the sort of idea, like just giving him this impression.
Yes, I have enough for you. Oh, and as Diggs sort of steps more closely, it's evident how tall he is. And the man, here you go. And he, without explaining what he's doing, it's the Dragongrin way. He takes a bite as he gives it to you, like, hey, it's not poisoned, like immediately. So he's just, and he's handing whoever will take it. It's not fresh bread. It's probably the first bread you've had since Blint or the Red Sail Market. And the middle is soft enough. And it's
exactly as is normal. It's stale, but it's not moldy.
That is the best way. It's like Dragongrin classic. That's Dragongrin Wonder Bread, right?
It's like bread jerky where you kind of have to like dig in with your teeth and
gotta really
pull it off. Yeah, exactly.
You're like the people that don't eat the crust have so much money.
I love that. So yeah, he hands it to you all.
Ephraim would immediately sort of tuck in, eating as he does, like a pig, as clearly an orphan, as he's just digging in and getting crumbs all over the place. And he would even sort of like look around and maybe even put his back to a tree or something and kind of lean, taking a little bit of a load off while he's eating his bread. But still, his one good eye, this strange orange-hued eye, is still kind of flicking everywhere, looking at all of these people. How many people are there? Ephraim would count how many people there are in this clearing.
Sure. And as you do that, that's sort of like your eyes darting back and forth. You can see pretty clearly there's at least 3 adults and maybe a couple of children. So, and then as you see a little more movement, it's closer to about 5 adults. Oh, okay, this person was leaned over. So consider at a glance about 5 adults and 3 children.
So he kind of does that thing of like, how many people could I take before they took me sort of thing that just like happens instinctively as, you know, Ephraim has sort of had to eat a lot of dry, crusty bread in alleyways waiting for people to come get him. So he sort of does that mentally in his mind in about a split second and then continues eating his bread.
Absolutely. And you can see that pattern, like the way that they're staggered, you would see, okay, this person's putting something away so I could get them in the back. And this, like, you've got it all just like science. And
Rudy would almost with the constitution of a giant, based on what I'm seeing here, with a great constitution, would take the smallest amount, almost an amount that's just enough to be respectful to the person offering it, but enough also to pass to his sort of compatriots to just, you know, he just needs a little bit to survive, sort of an old frail man, and would pass it on, you know, whatever this loaf of nearly moldy bread is.
And Garrick is probably like, he gnaws on a little bit, but he's actually feeling a little bit nauseated by the scene and is actually just taking some and tucking it away as well, trying to kind of hide that fact while still chewing on some.
it's very smart. And I think Matthias would gravitate toward you, Garrick. Yes. And he would extend his hand and sort of do that, like, try to grab your hand very like, oh, it's great to see you.
Yes, thank you for helping us out, and I'm very sorry for your loss.
Oh, yes. And you notice that Matthias seems to be in better spirits than anyone else. And in that moment where he's, gripping your hand and he seems very happy, you can almost sense that the others are upset, that he's a little happier and he remembers himself and he, yes. And then the sort of the weight of the scene pulls back into view. Certainly, we're paying our respects. So it's curious to you as to why he would be a little happier than the others.
Were they friends, family?
Yes, all of the above. We're a small community, and we don't understand why or how. But it happens, once a year or so, and it's never pleasant. Friends or family of yours, and he's confused now. It's starting to sort of resonate in his mind, wondering why you're here.
At best, sort of listening, one-sided, chewing on this little bit of bread and keeping an eye and more specifically an ear on the general situation. Kind of just paying our respects. And Rudy would just for a moment almost admit that he was crucified himself, but instead push it off on sort of a someone else. I've had my fair share of friends, relatives, and loved ones up on the cross at the dawn of truth. So I think we all understand, but even though we don't know them, and again, whatever this symbol is, like you said, the hand on the chest, the fist on the chest would say, our respects are paid, even though it's simply passing through. And with the word through would kind of look at Garrick like, we're just passing through.
Indeed. Just passing through. We are wanderers.
Yes, certainly. And have you had enough here? And he sort of approaches Diggs. What would Diggs be doing at this point as Matthias attempts to hand him just another little hunk of bread, maybe even a piece of his own bread?
It would the bread would be snatched out of Matthias's hand faster than Matthias could offer it. And the Diggs is thinking about how even under the dismembered lord's command, even in hiding, there was more food than this, than being completely off the grid, than being complete refugees, fugitives. He realizes too late what he's done, but he still eats it with flushed cheeks. But he nods to Matthias, ignoring any proposition for an answer to any question from Diggs. But instead, he turns a question to Matthias: "From which town do you hail?" While eating the bread.
Oh yes, we're it's not really a town, as it were. We move around the mountain. We are a community, and it's the only way we found to be safe. We make camp here and there, hither and thither. We find it doesn't keep us entirely safe, but safer than, say, Aberwith. And that's the town where our first session took place, where all of that stuff went down, and that's sort of become synonymous with terrible destruction in this region when someone mentions that town anymore.
Ephraim would sort of pipe in through a mouthful of bread, and as he's speaking, bread just flying out of his mouth. Quickest way to die and grin is to stop moving. It's smart.
Yes. And again, the guy's kind of looking around like it's a little off, and you can't tell exactly why, but you don't feel in danger. But Ephraim, your sense is just tingling like, what is going on with this guy that he is not acting like the rest of them? And then there's a woman who begins a fit of sobbing. My boy! And she's just begins wailing over there. And one of the children comes up and is sort of trying to get her to stop. And this guy just, it's not that he's being disrespectful at all. It's just that he seems to have more hope than the others.
I will keep an eye on him as he is continuing to talk, and I'm not going to engage him directly in conversation, but I'm just going to sort of like continue to perceive this entire situation and watch how he speaks with Diggs and the others, and just see if I can glean anything about this guy. And if it, like, Ephraim's been around, he's met a lot of different people, but he's also fairly young, so I don't think he would immediately be able to tell what this guy's deal was. But he would sort of nod along to what this guy is saying. Matthias, his name was, right?
That's correct, Matthias.
Okay, so you kind of nod along to what Matthias is saying. But then as this woman is sort of like, he hears these cries, and he would kind of like, he would be pulled towards her, like almost against his will. He would move over there and kind of stand beside her, and he would look down at her and just kind of say, I'm really sorry for your loss. Oh, you're muted, Tim.
Broke the streak. I said,
it wasn't me.
Yeah, dude, no, listen. I did it. I took it for the team. There's a pregnant pause. And it's very awkward because she doesn't really say anything at first. And it's one of those situations where, like, what else do you say? And did she hear me like that? And then through hands wet with tears, she just, but why? Why? And your words don't penetrate her grief.
You mentioned there was a kid beside her trying to sort of console her.
Yeah, probably a young boy.
I will actually like kneel down to her level so that I'm sort of eye level with her, and I'll just say, I don't know. There's never a good reason, but it looks like you have another little one here. You still have something, yeah?
Yeah. Yes.
And Rudy, again, as respectfully as he could, would sort of out of the side of his mouth, almost as though he wasn't listening, but obviously was, would say to this woman, if there's one thing I've learned, it's to focus on what is and not what could have been. Your son will grow up great, and, well, the dawn of truth is something he'll avoid his whole life, so try to remember that.
And this kindness from strangers is probably more sustenance than a warm meal. And this woman looks, for the first time since you've seen her here, like her shoulders drop just a bit and the tears don't come quite as readily. And she looks to the two of you. She clutches her young boy and she kisses his head. And she says, yes. Yes. Thank you.
Ephraim is a bit taken aback seeing her look at him and seeing her with her son, and he is remembering these fleeting images that he has of his mother and catching her crying when she thought that he wasn't looking. And he'll kind of very quickly stand as he sort of gets uncomfortable. It's like, uh-oh, emotions coming up. And so he like stands up and goes, yeah, yep, no problem. And then he would say, have you eaten?
I give what food I have to my children, to Harrison and Hadley.
That's a good mother, but you need to take care of yourself too. Here, just take it. And he has like half a crust of bread left and he hands it to her.
She doesn't eat it immediately, but she looks at it and then she looks at her children. Yes, I will. I promise.
All right.
And she tucks it away.
And Ephraim would just kind of like awkwardly sort of nod and then kind of like back up from her, just sort of like, okay, the conversation is sort of like ending now. So I'm going to awkwardly walk back over to my tree and keep watching everybody.
Mathias has gravitated toward Diggs. And he has a small pouch. And he sort of fidgets with it. And it's awkward, but it's kindly. And he sort of looks around because he doesn't want everyone to want one of his chicken nuggets. But he has what looks like some salted meats, some sort of jerky. And he says, you look the hungrier of of all of us. And I here. And he sort of gives you this piece of meat that's a couple of bites. Like, dude didn't bite it off and give it to you. He gave you a piece that's like a couple of bites.
He takes it and he eyes Mathias carefully, looking for some sort of motive. He doesn't stare long, though. He looks behind his shoulders at the other people he's with, trying to see if anyone else is watching. Does he see anything off the bat?
No. It's
Um,
you could see the interaction happening, and sort of Ephraim stands. He was kneeling, and it looked like he was sort of comforting the woman, and then he stands, and then one of the children, the girl, Hadley, goes towards Garrick, and you see her sort of just like smiling at him, and maybe starts to play a game of peekaboo with Garrick. But other than that, nothing out of the ordinary for Dragon Grid.
then yeah, Diggs eyes everyone, eyes the food, looks back to Mathias, and says, "Thank you. Forgive my pause." He looks around. There aren't many friends to be found out here. So few that you have to second guess them. And he takes a big, heavy bite of what he was offered, probably finishing it in 1 or 2 downs.
Yeah, and it's delicious. It's one of those things where as it passes your tongue quickly, it's salted and it's got that sustenance that only a savory piece of protein can have, even salted and dried. And he says to you, "It was poison." No, I'm kidding. He says,
Second guess this.
He said,
Got
April
him.
Fools.
He's dead.
got him with the second one. You didn't see me try this one, did you, big guy? No.
Can I, Tim, though, if you had done that, if you had killed my character and started a fight for everyone else, I would just sit back and applaud. So it's not too late. Not too
Right?
late.
No.
Dragon baby.
He
Back
Yeah,
in Dead
no.
Man's Guide to Dragon Grid right now. Poison your friends.
So he does take a piece that is remaining, and you could tell that the satchel's getting kind of low there. He's down to those pieces that aren't quite pieces. And so he sort of picks at it, and he takes a bite. He says, You probably think me rude or terrible. I know that I had a smile on my face and all of this, but I have hope. It's just rumors, but they say that my daughter, who was crucified here, they say she escaped. The tales say that she got away, and I know it's only a matter of time before I find my sweet Kathleen.
Yeah, Diggs' face slackens as he realizes. I don't know. He coughs up the food and gives it back. Sorry, no. He stands there. He looks to his friends. Whoever was in earshot. He looks to you first.
So that would absolutely be Rudy. And again, the least seemingly hungry. Obviously, Rudy has a great rumbling in his belly, but not the hungriest of his group. He would turn, and the look on his face just, his face would fall. And he would say, "Sir, great sir, I'm so sorry. The dawn of truth was not kind to everyone, and we were traveling with your Kathleen. An assassin, it would seem." And he would pause for what seemed like far too long to his compatriots. And he would say, "I promise. She went quickly. She made it off the cross, trust me. But after that..." And he wouldn't say any more words. He would shake his head and just look this man straight in the eyes. Shake his head and kind of turn his gaze away.
What? No. 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 My Kathleen escaped. She was here. You are surely mistaken, and I apologize. You No.
She
No.
did escape, sir. She did escape. Trust me. Trust me. I knew you were Kathleen, and she was strong and vibrant and searching for her sister and her father. I'm sure you trust me. Trust me. Trust me. And again, without words, shake his head and just turn his gaze downward.
You didn't know my daughter. This is ridiculous. Why would you do this? I feed you? This is how you repay me and my
what
thanks?
he says is true. Dig speaks up.
Could I? This is gonna sound a little weird, but I want to look at him, but I want to impress upon him sort of the sort of weight of the situation. I want to make an intimidate check, like just look at him, like really look in my eyes and understand that what I say as an old man is real.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm sorry, I don't remember what words are. Okay, so with a 17, dirty 17 there, just looking again, impressing upon him, probably almost tears in my eyes, looking at him, man to man, trust me, I met your daughter and I know what happened.
And, just for the sake of like the role play, I rolled a modified 16. So it is a very it's a clash where you are met with force. It is not something that he takes lightly when you sort of insist. You're insisting on murdering his hope. You are convincing him that his child is dead, is what you're doing. And for the first moment, it is not working. And he rises up and this sort of anger, and you see his face become beet red and no, my Kathleen is alive. You will not take this from me. And I think it's as Dig says, what he says is true. It sort of all pulls in, and Rudy, those tears and the wisdom in your eyes.
And probably through sort of almost sobbing, Rudy would reassure him or ensure him. I buried her myself, just breaking down, having seen Kathleen dying.
And as this begins to happen, he breaks down too. Just this sort of no, not my Kathleen. Oh, not my Kathleen. And he's just begins to wail, the wail of a man who lost a child.
In the midst of the wails, Ephraim approaches where Diggs is, and Diggs begins taking off his gloves. But he's going to wait until the right moment, maybe when they're leaving, to probably present this guy with his daughter's gloves.
And so, you mentioned these were people at this stage that have very clearly sort of honored the dead, and then almost. The idea is, in my mind, Rudy, for good or for ill, would try and connect with this person with some implication of the undying light. Not necessarily the exact words, but almost like, hey, I'm on the level. The dismembered lord's a jerk. Really, trust me, we're doing it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I don't know what that means.
Do you know what it would mean now, especially in the last couple of weeks, as quickly as the news of Aberwith has spread? What Abigail Mullen said to the Stains was true. You are those that remain. The dismembered lord's vow is that none that stand against him shall remain. And you do. So to use those words, to say those things, to say anything related to that, is the spark that gives some people hope in this time.
Yeah, so really exactly that. Again, almost a fervent arm to the chest kind of listen, buddy, I've got you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like you said, just that really like, hey, hopefully if I've got anything to say about it, this old man and his compatriots, this, well, tall man and these other vibrant, really fellows based on what Rudy looks like, just really kind of impressing upon him with his will as much as possible. Listen, we're ready to do anything we can. And all of that in one more, like, so, okay. So lore wise, we're doing this sort of fist of the chest thing kind of. Rudy would do the old thing, whatever the old thing is. The I don't know what it would be, but like if this were the Hunger Games, the three fingers, like just like, listen, I've got you, like a wink about like, no, listen, we know what you're going through and we are on our way. You know what I mean?
Yes. And that's like whatever that would be, you know, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly. Rudy's effectively like, we got this, son.
Exactly. And no, yeah, like he's essentially, I'm sorry for laughing in the chat. Matt says Wakandan 005. So,
you know what I'm sorry, you know what I'm talking about, right? In the movie where
exactly
they do the double 05. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Right.
Exactly. Cool. But so James, I mean, you're doing the equivalent of you're throwing up the horns, like you said, it means something different to do what you're like doing.
Exactly. In Game of Thrones, it's the old gods, wink, wink, and the new. You know what I mean? Like, no, screw them old gods or screw them new gods. Sure. The old gods are where we're at.
And so that would be what that would really be. Like I said, if you were even to use the phrase.
Yeah, just like one of those, like, hey, you're on the level.
Yeah, and you would say to them something like, yes.
Yeah.
Never forget, we are those that remain.
Exactly. Yeah,
we are those that remain.
I'm like, you get me, son? And then we do the Wakandan low 5, and it's a whole thing.
It's me, dude. It's me under here. It's Rudy.
He pulls away his beard. He's like,
it's me. It's a rubber band. It's me, dude. It's Chater. So yeah, and that sort of hits home for him, and it gives him this sense of like he's reeling. It hasn't hit him, you know, he hasn't gone through a cycle of grief, but that does grant him solace.
I imagine that Garrick has he's been kind of playing with this little girl who's been like hiding behind her mom's legs, and you know, I imagine everyone's attention has now turned from whatever they were doing to this. And Garrick has definitely tears in his eyes, but I think the words of Rudy have been as much for all of us as they have been for Kathleen's dad. That, oh yeah. So I had started getting choked up again, but now I'm resolute again.
Exactly. Whatever this symbol is, it's like, hey, we're on the level. And like you said, Garrick, the same thing to his friends, like, no, we're not letting this stand. You know, we were up there ourselves. And as Tim said, we were not as lucky as them to have gotten down. And then as Kathleen, you know, the same thing. She made it. And then still was taken from us. So Rudy is just, there's almost a fire in his eyes that maybe not everybody gets, but hopefully at least Kathleen's father understands.
And he does. You know, and if I had to come up with something on the spot, I would say a good placeholder, at least for this session, would be not middle knuckle, because that's got your nose, but like top knuckle, you know, thumb in between knuckle, just because it's subtle. You can do it walking away. It's like, so anyone who's watching, make sure that I didn't just give you the finger in New Zealand or something. But yeah, so that occurs. And I think it's Ephraim who would probably be the first one to see the marrow that have surrounded you.
Is this another I poisoned you, or are you being for real right now?
I'm being for real right now.
Hashtag this biatch.
So Ephraim would actually be throughout this entire thing, like starting from when Matthias realizes that his daughter is dead, and Ephraim is he's leaned up against this tree. He's finished eating, and he just hears, sobbing people. He sees the people, who have been crucified. Matthias just wailing over his daughter, and Ephraim just reaches up, and he has this weird kind of thing where he can't see his hand. And once he goes past this point, because he doesn't have vision on that side anymore, and his fist kind of closes, and he kind of turns around and punches the tree and kind of stalks off into the woods a little bit, almost throwing a bit of a tantrum as he's just sort of realizing, like, yes, we survived, but we have lost so much. We have already lost a friend. I lost my eye. Like, we have lost so much. And he's just kind of cutting through the woods, and then he would kind of look up and he would see movement, and he would see the Marrow. Are they kind of like surrounding, like closing in on this clearing?
Sure. And so the number that you would immediately see, kind of what you're talking about before, just that ability to size it up that fast. It's 3 of them, and they're far enough away and spread out, and they sort of look like they're trudging through, not really in a rush, but instantly, as you sort of kind of look up, you hear that. You there? What are you doing here? State your business.
So at this stage, to anyone that's looking, or it's hard to put into words, but to their sort of inspection, Rudy is a young man. Rudy is nothing like they've ever seen. Rudy, a shock of black hair and a beard. Rudy does not look like Rudy looks. Rudy looks like Randolph. And he looks at these Marrow. And these Marrow, conceivably, are concerned with what they might have stumbled on.
And the one addressing Ephraim sort of looks around, and the other one. Sir, there's more over here. I said, you there. What's your business?
And Ephraim would have learned a long time ago that encountering Marrow is a lot like encountering a predator, and you never want to turn and run because they will chase you. And so Ephraim kind of like immediately goes into more of a slack posture, and there are kind of like tears in his eyes, and he kind of wipes them away, and he goes, begging your pardon, sir, but I was just paying my respects to the poor souls up on those crosses that were sacrificed in his name on the day of truth. And he would keep his eyes low. His eye low.
And if this is hard, but Rudy probably wouldn't be interested in any confrontation with the Marrow. But Randolph's got other words to say about this, and would absolutely, whichever one was close to him, cast Witchbolt. And I need to see what that means, but
okay, well, what I was gonna say. So what I'll do?
Go ahead.
Let me resolve this first. So Matt, give me a bluff. Give me a bluff check with advantage for that killer role play.
Okay, deception.
Yeah, sorry. Cool. Give me a rope check.
It's Bro's playing Pathfinder. All right, so that's a 12, and that's another 12. Okay, so 12 on the die.
Okay.
No, he just does the cat's cradle and confuse this guy. Use rope, baby.
Yeah. Give me a ladder check.
So 14 total, Tim.
Okay, you do beat him. So he goes. Right then. Well, keep it moving. And in that instant, you see, and James, I just want you to describe to me what Witchbolt looks like. So in the sort of, as the sun has set, the woods are getting, I would say the sun isn't entirely behind, but it's dusk. What does it look like as you shoot a Marrow with a witch bolt?
So I would say most importantly, Rudy does not look like Rudy. Rudy does not have a beard. He does not have a hat. Rudy is clad in leather armor. Rudy is 23 years old. Rudy is a human that does not have time for the BS that these Marrow are spewing. And like I said, he just unleashes a witch bolt on whichever one is closest to him.
So I'm like, the way that I'm imagining it, because we haven't really established any kind of combat blocking. So you guys have some liberties here. The Marrow is a couple of strides away from Ephraim, and they have sort of this triangle formation where so that the leader is here and then the other two would be sort of on the sides. I imagine that from Ephraim's purview, he's looking at this leader, and the one on the right just gets just this bolt in the chest.
Yeah, and more specifically, Rudy rolls a clean 20 to all told 26 witch bolt to just absolutely say no to whatever this Marrow, lieutenant versus sergeant, I don't know which one is higher, just clears this guy with 1d12 lightning damage that I haven't rolled yet. But absolutely, I'm confident hits him based on what I rolled.
No, you absolutely hit him. In fact, I can narrate it or you can narrate it. It's up to you. Whatever's more fun for James.
So in my mind, so it says, I don't imagine they have any sort of, what's it called? Like, I don't think they're I can't think of the word resistant to lightning damage.
No.
In my mind, yeah. So I don't like witch bolt being lightning damage. So in my mind, I imagine it just being this sort of eminence force of ancient, untold magic that the likes of which have never been seen in probably years, and the likes of which have, if told in stories, are not believed. And this, I guess I should roll a d12 still, but still,
sure.
Based on that amount of damage, yeah, I'm like, I guess I should roll a damage die eventually.
Yeah, go for it.
Based on that, this Marrow takes 14 damage of, like I said, what I imagine is just this untold ancient magic, almost instinctively from the man that was Rudy and is now Randolph, just not interested in whatever they have to say.
Describe to me what it looks like as you kill this Marrow.
See, here's the thing. It doesn't look like much. It just looks like the Marrow's no longer there. A bolt, a short, thin, tiny, little bolt. And suddenly there's only 2 Marrow. There's not 3. And the look in Randolph's eyes as he turns to the other 2 Marrow and potentially side eyes, his compatriots, is not something they're used to.
Matt, if you can tell me what you do in less than 5 seconds, you get a surprise round. 1.
I
2,
immediately draw a dagger
3,
off my chest and throw it at one of
4.
the other Marrow.
Roll.
Okay. Okay, that's a 9 on the die. My dagger is +6, so 15.
Hits.
Okay, that's
Just.
1d4 plus 4. 2 on the die, so 6 damage. So Ephraim basically he sees one of the Marrow just kind of evaporate, and he has like a split second where he's like, what the? And the other Marrow are like kind of going for their weapons or whatever, and he just kind of throws one of these daggers out like Loki style, and it just hits one of the Marrow dead on.
Yeah, and so I would say in the neck, there's sort of this, little bit of face exposed. They have their face plates and such, but there's this sort of neckline where the helmet rests against, whatever sort of armor, and it slides in there like Ephraim's getting really good at killing people. And so this knife sort of slides in, and there's that pause of like, hey, and as he turns to sort of look at what happened, that he's just like, and he staggers backward and draws his sword. I would say Diggs would notice all of this that's going on. What are you doing?
So at this moment, it's looking like one is fried. The one that I imagine Diggs was looking right at is mystified. He's gone. And Diggs can see through this translucent person for a moment before they wisp away in the fires of a witch bolt. Also sees another one get he got derezzed. Absolutely. That's exactly what it looked like. Then he sees another dude get hit with this dagger. He's going to grab his weapon, which he has never set far away from him. In his mind, this was always a possibility. The sad part is he let that possibility go. He got too trusting. And now the halberd that he just picked up just recently, the hand-me-down halberd that he was defending himself with, is 15 feet away. And so he reaches for it. It's not there. He's actually going to run towards it, pull it out of the earth, and move back. So I don't know if in my mind it was kind of a full move action before I could get back into the fight. And he would probably attack a Marrow were they not vaporized right in front of them.
Sure. And so you're able to do that, like you said, take that full move, heavy with regret. Garrick.
Garrick is probably, still kind of crouched on the ground, a couple of kids around him. But, sees his friends engaging in something. And immediately I stand up, and I guess if I would be able to see a Marrow from where I am, I would like to just extend my staff and cast Eldritch Blast.
You may. There's one in front of Ephraim that you could probably see pretty easily, and then there's one that's more directly in front of you, and it's your choice, whichever one you want to try to hit.
And as I'm doing this, I would move away from the kids. I don't want to put anyone at danger here, so I'm moving into it's forested. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say it is. It's forested with some mountains on the side and some rocks and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just moving kind of into the trees now, and I did not roll super well. That's a 12 to hit.
Okay, so that does not hit.
Okay, so I imagine, if it's okay with you, I just kind of, this blast strikes off of a tree branch, and everyone would just hear this as like half this tree kind of splits, but it doesn't fall on anybody or anything.
Sure, absolutely. What sort of spell would you say? Well, what did it look like? What sort of energy was it? Was it like necrotic? Was it lightning? What?
Yeah, so I imagine it's kind of like lightning. It crackles as it shoots through there, like, and but it's not incredibly bright. It's just this crackling bolt of energy.
Sure, and the tree is slowly beginning to burn. It's not a blaze, but that cracking and the dry lights the tree. And so the tree begins to burn, and the flame grows steadily and quickly. So the Marrow with a knife in his neck sort of puts his hand up and is just grabbing at it. And he's well trained enough to leave it. And so he grabs at his sword, and Ephraim, in a fit of probably pure adrenaline, he comes at you and attempts to overpower you with just this hacking of a sword just right down, just okay, and that is I love me some D&D Beyond. Can I just say that?
You can, because it's just the best. I can't wait to port this character sheet into D&D Beyond.
Right. Legit. So Ephraim does a 15 hit.
It does not. I have 16 AC.
Okay. So he is too full of adrenaline and swings too quickly. And so he isn't quite to you yet. But the blade does scrape your armor. It just, but he's just, you hear that sound and he sort of stumbles before you. The other Marrow, having seen this witch bolt or the spell that Nate, that you cast from your staff rather, he sort of turns and he quickly grabs a throwing dagger from his belt and sort of chucks it at you with a critical failure. So Nate, I'll let you have some fun here. What does a critical failure look like when a Marrow tries to throw a knife at you?
So I imagine that it actually like bounces off of a tree near me and falls just right at my feet. And I just kind of duck low and scoop it up.
Killer. New knife. That's perfect. And I will say that he probably loses his footing from the tree behind him and so on. And he stumbles backward. He doesn't quite fall, but he definitely won't be able to attack, especially Ephraim, as readily. Okay, great. Now, all this is happened. Rudy, what are you doing? Or should I say Randolph?
So, in fact, it is Rudy. Bearded and quite along in age, Rudy, I guess I would say, gains sort of control of what's happening, and immediately, so there's still two Marrows standing right here, sort of in front of us. So Rudy, reaching into whatever he collected, would do his best to put these two to sleep with his color spray, not killing, not certainly even harming anyone. Based on what his compatriots might do. I seriously dropped my D20 and it just rolled to who knows where. So I'm gonna find another one. I dropped it in my lap and it went under my desk, but I have an orange one. So Rudy, in a dazzling array of flashing colored light, springs from my hand. I don't actually roll the hit. I just rolled the hit dice. Okay, I forgot about that.
Cool.
Sorry.
Gotcha. Okay, no, you're good. So, question, is that including Ephraim, like back in the Shack days?
Yes, anyone that's in this cone, absolutely. So if Ephraim's engaged with one of these Marrow, absolutely.
Come on, hit me.
I have to roll 60, 10, and I only have 3. Well, 4.
Hit me, Paprika.
I don't know. All right, yeah, give me a minute to do some math so I don't feel bad.
No, you're good. You're good. And so Nate has a good question in the chat for you as well, James, if you want to answer that. But
I got to roll 2 more D6 and then I'll answer
You're good. You're good. So Ephraim, having this sword scrape against your chest and being able to just move an instant earlier. And you would have been able to move way quicker, but your eye, and you're still getting used to it. That shot would have never hit you, but it did scrape. So what are you doing?
So this Marrow's in front of me, and he swings at me. And it was one of those things where like I was going for my short sword and then he kind of swung at me and sort of I had to dodge a few blows with my hand on the blade, but with not enough room to draw the sword out. And so I imagine he does like the and he does like a wide swing with this sword, this long sword, and Ephraim does like a somersault underneath it and manages to have the wiggle room to get this sword out, and he just flings it out, and he's gonna sort of stab it upwards at this Marrow, trying to get in between the plates of his armor on his torso.
Killer.
9 on the die again, so that'll be 15 to hit.
Just hits. Yep.
Okay, awesome. 15 is the magic number.
Okay, so I'm not even sure what's happening anymore. So,
no.
Well, I cast color spray, and the important thing is about color spray is the lowest. How many hit points of creatures are affected is 24, but it starts with the lowest hit die. So I don't know what Marrow are, but hopefully they are lower than Ephraim is.
Sure,
Otherwise, this dude is going to sleep.
Yeah. So I can look it up real quick here.
So yeah, it
So-
starts with a rolled 60-10, which ended up in 24. The total is how many hit points of creatures the spell can affect. Creatures in a 15-foot cone, which would probably encompass 2 Marrow and 1 Ephraim. In ascending order of current hit points would go.
So I think it would affect the guard first because he's 2 hit die. And
Sounds good to me.
Since we leveled up, Ephraim is now 3. So
Sounds great.
yep, so he's 2 hit die.
So the most important thing is, as pointed out by the chat, just a moment ago, Randolph was from his hands. I don't like the idea of even of a wand, but from his, I don't know, being, this witch bolt shot out and disintegrated this whole person, probably press ganged into sort of serving the dismembered lord. Who knows?
Right.
Gone. Just disappeared from this even earth. And suddenly Rudy takes control again. And no more, it's not a damage spell. It's a color spray. The paprika from the, first time that this happened. And turmoil in his mind, and he just shoots it out. And it hits Ephraim and this other guard and potentially puts him to sleep. Based on what this says, it doesn't put him to sleep. Sorry, blinded until the next spell ends, which means that he has automatically fails any ability checks that require sight, and attack rolls against the creature have advantage.
Oh, killer! So Matt,
Yeah.
you did hit, but had you not, and so I kind of imagine this happening concurrently too. And so as you were adding it up and kind of doing all that, I would imagine, Matt, like you said, you kind of like reach up to this Marrow with your short sword, just, and as you do this sort of prismatic cloud of light, and so is Ephraim blinded too in his one eye?
So based on what this says, it's the starting with the creature that has the lowest current hit points. Each creature affected by this spell, which would be, let me see. So are affected in ascending order. So if the Marrow has fewer than 24 hit points and Ephraim has fewer, I don't think so. Based on I think what I'm reading here.
So,
Basically, if the 2 remaining Marrow have 24 hit points or more, I'm not affected.
Yeah.
okay,
Which I think so.
Right. So the one Ephraim on your left, just for the sake of game mechanics, so has 11, and the
Mhm.
one in front of you, before you just hit it, has 5.
Okay, so I am affected.
And yeah, essentially, well, because of the way the actions are going, I will let you slash with your short sword first,
Okay.
because I feel like it's kind of happening concurrently.
Yeah.
Well, but still, they would have fewer than 24,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
so all
yeah,
3
yeah,
of you
yeah.
would be blinded, basically.
You would all be blinded. I guess what I'm saying is I'll let you resolve what you did.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah. Because
Before-
that's far fewer.
Okay, so I got 15 on my roll.
Yep. And so you hit,
Okay, so 7 damage with the short sword.
which would kill him.
Okay, so I come up, stab into the armor, and just gut this guy because this is the one with the dagger in his neck.
Oh,
too,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So I come up, gut him, and then reach up and pull the dagger out of his throat, and blood just fountains out as I pull the dagger out. So I have dagger in one hand and short sword in the other, and then I turn and get a face full of just projected paprika out of Rudy's hand, and my one good eye just immediately closes against this just burning sensation, and I sort of push this heavy Marrow off of me as I kind of stumble backwards, completely blinded.
Diggs, I got the sense that you were you had grabbed your weapon and you were sort of flanking. Is that about right?
I was going to grab my weapon and turn right back around at the fight, just at the center of the camp, and I would see just Marrow wreckage, I guess, in front of me.
Sure. Well, the thing is, there's still the one thing that you would notice, especially from your time on the battlefield, is the blinded Marrow, who sort of staggered back, is still very much alive. So there are 2 down, but you see that one target. And there's still one standing who's sort of catching his balance and standing up again.
Is there anyone behind him?
Not at all.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm gonna frickin' throw this halberd. I'm going to grab it with both hands. Diggs is going to raise it above his head. He's going to take a step forward and just release this massive, I don't know. He's going to defy the laws of physics to be freaking awesome and throw his halberd at the enemy. Oh, okay, not bad. Go ahead. Disadvantage.
I was going to say, well, did you hit? Because if not, you get advantage because he's blind. So any weapon attacks against this creature are done so with advantage.
Cool. So then that'll neutralize it. I only get one roll, which was a 14, which is this a finesse weapon? No, I'm kidding. It's stupid.
No, but I think it would get your strength at least.
Yeah,
Or
that's what I'm.
I don't know how this game works.
Why did it lock me? Okay, so total is 19. Total.
Yeah. You can essentially narrate what that looks like because you certainly hit.
Oh, what it looks like is this side of this Marrow's helmet is cloven in two with his head inside of it. And it's done so swiftly that you don't really see much of anything other than kind of the blood draining out the sides and down. You hear some slight gurgling, and he falls and his feet kind of drum against the ground and he twitches for a moment. And there Diggs is staring at one of the little kids who's staring at the body. And that child looks to Diggs and is terrified or something. Like it just, and Diggs realizes in the moment what's happening and goes forward, retrieves his weapon, gives a shameful glance to the child and walks away to secure the area. He's going to go check around the outer woods, just make sure there are only 3 of them. Make sure that there are no more of them.
Absolutely. And right now, that combat has ended. So you're back to at least the relative safety of Dragongrin.
Ephraim, without missing a beat, would turn to where he thinks Rudy is because he can't see and say, "What the bleaking hell are you thinking?" And he would sort of like walk towards him, stumbling, maybe tripping over a root. "What did you do? Why did you do that?"
And Rudy, probably not realizing that Ephraim was unable to see him, would wordlessly kind of show, sort of imply, I don't know, he wouldn't say any words, he would stumble over his words and he would be not sure. Something took over me. And those were all the words he'd say to Ephraim, blinded.
And Ephraim sort of rubbing his eye. "You just killed that Marrow without even missing a beat. We need to move these bodies. We need to move them now because they're going to assume that these people killed these Marrow. We need to move them somewhere far away."
More confident, Randolph, probably unknowingly to Ephraim and the rest of his compatriots, say, "Marrow, I kill them a dime a dozen. Get out of here. They're no problem." And Rudy would take control of himself again and say, "Oh, you're right. Shovel. We've got shovels. I'll dig. Let's see what we can do." And Rudy, would be more forgiving and ready to hide exactly the bodies to make sure that these people weren't implicated in their deaths.
And Ephraim, sort of like gaining his senses back, would kind of look just curiously, wordlessly at Rudy, and then look past Rudy at Garrick, who's, because Diggs is off looking for more Marrow, who kind of look at Garrick and have this look on his face like, what is going on? What just happened?
And Garrick just has this absolutely bewildered look in his face, and it's just, yeah. I don't know. I've never.
And it's sort of exactly at that Rudy would look at Garrick like, "Grab a shovel, son. Let's bury these Marrow. You know what this means, implying that, yes, absolutely. If we were caught standing over the 3 dead Marrow, that us and everyone, even in a mile radius, would be in trouble."
Right. We should be quick about it.
I will. I look to the people here and look specifically to Matthias and say, "You need to go. You need to go now. You need to get as far away from here as you can."
Yes, yes, yes. And Garrick, you're still sort of among them, right? So he's sort of looking at you. No, gods, and he sort of just quickly, and everyone's just gathering their things and scurrying off, and the people are gone now. And I think,
But before that, with the confidence of a younger man, Rudolph would grab this man, again, bearded and old and crow's feet, all the wrinkles. But again, with this confidence, would say, Kathleen will be avenged. And immediately let him go as a feeble old man and turn to his compatriots and grab a shovel.
and the child would take one last look at Diggs. And then, after a long pause, scurry away.
Diggs lets out a hearty sigh. He knows that child will never forget him. That child will carry the memory of him killing that person, that Marrow, to that child's grave. And he looks up at the people, Kathleen's dad, who's now gone. He looks up and there's no one there, and looks up to the hill and he sees the just kind of 3 empty crosses. I don't know if the bodies were taken off, but he just sees them kind of standing alone, no crowds anymore. And he thinks that maybe there's better justice to the Marrow than being in the ground. But he shakes off the thought, grabs a shovel, and goes to help his friends.
And as the sun sets behind these mountains, as the sun sets behind the grips, you've got a lot of digging to do. And this is where we'll take a break.
Killer.
Uh,
Almost.
So #players did not expect you guys to fight the Marrow. Had a stat block just in case, because
I don't think we did either.
Because who knows? Because multiple personalities, you never know.
So that was a blast. And so yeah, I think we still got another little bit in us here. But everybody who's watching, thank you all for tuning in and hanging out with us. We have some incredible people in the chat, including Runehammer, ICRPG, and tons of other cool games. We're great friends with him. Rob from Performance Check was around. Lots of awesome people from the community. We will take a 5-minute break for a drink, restroom. When we come back, let's see how much more trouble those that remain can get themselves in. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for hanging out with us. We're going to start playing again here shortly. Like I said, lots of really, really, really cool people here. Hey, Christy. It is game in progress. We just took a quick 5-minute break. Runehammer says, these guys have great chemistry. Always a hoot. Thanks, man. Yeah, I love playing D&D. I love playing D&D with these guys. Quad Gaming says, I thought they planned way more of these than they actually do. Yeah, a lot of this is what I've learned to do, especially with players like this, is just come up with a scene that has a problem or a challenge. In that scene, the problem was the role play of Kathleen's dad finding out that, what were they going to do? Basically, presenting the players with the moral quandary of, do we let this guy have his hope or do we tell him? And let the players choose. So I just presented them with that problem. Didn't know how it was going to pan out. Truthfully, I didn't even know if they would go over and follow the sounds, if they would approach. So just presenting opportunities and challenges, and whatever challenges that they gravitate toward, just kind of go for that. And so, yeah, that's what I've been doing. And it's worked a lot.
Yeah, that's the biggest piece of advice I've started giving new DMs is prepping problems and not solutions. Like, so many people think about, oh, they're going to fight the goblins and then they're going to go here and they're going to do this and then they're going to do this. And it's like, no, if you just have like a bunch of fun, like, challenges planned and don't even think about solutions, because your players won't do the things that you're anticipating that they're going to do anyway. So
exactly that.
It's like every game is like an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's just like all they have is just an outline and that's it. And it's just all improv around that.
That's it. And through experience, I prepped a stat block for the Marrow. In my head, I thought, well, I probably won't need this, because I assumed, again, if I would have just planned, okay, well, then they're going to, talk to the Marrow and try to escape. You just can't, because then James witch bolts one in the chest. Barker's playing his machine. You're muted if you're actually playing. I'd love to hear it.
I didn't know what that sound was going to be. What was that, Tom? Yeah, it was like
that Tom was great. That was the perfect little That's like when you're like, hey, drummer, I think your tom head's a little loose there.
That was my first ever drum recording experience, was a snare that was like a pong, and I was like, oh, we'll fix it in post or whatever, some stupid thing. And then
no, you won't. That's that 311 snare.
No, I fixed it by deleting basically all the mid and upper range of the spectrum. So it's just
you cut it's all off that sandwich. You just were like,
yeah, dude.
So now I have the subwoofer channel for Pacific Rim. That's basically what the song sounds like. It's just the occasional.
So I neutered your snare. You're gonna love it.
Dude, I really love a nice poppy, like, piccolo snare sound. I've always really loved that. Like the snare on Dream Theater's what is that album? Oh, I can't remember the name of the album. It's the one on the cover where it's looking through binoculars. Anyway, the snare on that album is like my favorite ever, because every snare hit's just like ping, like it just cuts right through everything.
It's that high and tight piccolo snare. 311 loves that. Let's see here. So there's some questions here as we wait for James to return. Quad Gaming says, I'm still new to D&D, so it just amazes me how well you all mesh together. I have only played with new people, so it did not mesh nearly as well. Everyone playing here is very experienced, and that's where the meshing comes from. We also have very similar play styles. And so, yeah, I don't see exactly what happens here very often among new players, because there's just a lot of questions and stuff like that. And that's okay. This comes with time.
Just keep playing. Just keep playing with the group and keep trying it out.
Even with experienced people and people that have gamed together, like we weren't this meshy like in the first episode of this campaign, but we're, what is this, 8 or 9 sessions into this campaign. So we're we sort of know the characters and know the dynamic and how everyone interacts with each other and stuff too. So it's a lot easier. Like we just fell into the role play at the beginning of this game. Like we were just like, we tumbled right into it. We were like, like circus performers. We just like tumbled into the ring. Like, hey,
it actually was pleasantly surprising. I didn't know how it was going to go. So the opening was cold for me. I was like, okay. And that was awesome. I was like, okay, dude, they're feeling it tonight.
Guys, Rudy isn't sure what year it is. I hope that's okay.
1990.
I gotta tell you, it's difficult to keep track of Rudy and Randolph for sure.
Oh man.
Just as a character, no, it's wonderful. But you called him Rudolph. I died behind my muted microphone.
I was cracking up over that too, because I was like, when they fuse, like their Dragon Ball Z fusion is Rudolph.
I'm so glad I ruined that, guys. GG, nubs. That's me. I'm Rudolph. Oh god, I remember
Like
saying
Monopoly.
that too. Son of a bitch.
Do the
I mean,
dance.
B.
Ding. That's amazing. So
Let me ask you this: with
Sure.
years in Dragon Grin, is it called Year of Our Dismembered Lord, or how do you measure year? I can't remember.
yeah, so in one of our other supplements, the Copper Jackals, we had
It's
to make a
Lightfall.
timeline. Right, we did Dawn of Truth. So it's like
Okay.
or the Dawn of Truth and after the Dawn of Truth. So it's whatever year DT is usually what.
Yeah,
it is.
like 1990 DT is when like Nickelback was really big, you know.
Super
So that's when Randolph was around, you know.
Yeah, it was really awkward when the song Photograph was out and no one knew what that was, but everyone loved the song. So one of the things we're focusing on in this campaign is trying to do some survivalist play and some resource management. And so one of the things I kind of want to start with is just keep track as we had the campfire and as kind of things progressed, keep track of whether or not you had food or water, because that will play a key role the next time you rest. And so just bear that in mind.
Cool. Yep.
And so it's difficult to kind of jump back in, and find the last tone and feel. So let's not try to do that, and let's just roll into how would you guys handle this now? You have this field of dead marrow. One of them is just red mist. You might have to clean his jibs off the tree, but at least 2 bodies and a bunch of witnesses. So what does this look like for you guys?
So I think first and foremost, we take anything valuable off of these guys. Supplies, rations, weapons, probably not armor. We don't want to walk around in Marrow armor, but just any like, what do they have on them, Tim, that would be of value to us?
Sure. So just thinking, and you guys stop me or add anything you feel you're looking for.
They have +2 swords.
Yeah.
Vorpal ones.
Vorpal is what I was going to say. Yeah, they have Vorpal ones. They also have fresh Nikes, which
I tie them and throw them up on the power line.
Rudy goes ahead and strips him of their Jinko jeans just so he fits in later.
So, well, no, in regard to the fresh Nikes, though, I think most of you were wearing borrowed or stolen shoes or old shoes. So one of the things is you could definitely check your feet against their shoe sizes, because they probably have soldier's boots, which would be much better for climbing mountains than your socks. Yeah, I don't know how to handle whether or not the sizes would fit. So if anybody has ideas on that, I'm thinking maybe like a D100 sort of percentile thing. There's a 30% chance. So if you roll between 0 and 30, you can have boots that fit you. And then you guys can argue.
Roll under, baby.
I just rolled a 7.
We're playing Black Hack.
I rolled an 84.
Them boots don't fit Garrick's big old cloppers.
So Nate, I'm not the DM, but you have a very diehard sort of experience.
Gotcha.
All these terrorists have such small feet.
Ho ho ho! I've got a gun. I mean a machine gun. I mean a dagger.
So I rolled under, Tim, so I find a pair of boots that fit pretty well, don't I?
Great. Yes, you do. And and was it James? What did you roll?
So I have shoes already that I stole from a dead man on the cross. I don't know. I don't think I should be rolling.
No, that's thematic, man. So
That's on me.
There
Yeah,
were
no,
two
no.
pairs. It looks like. Did I say 1 in 40 or 1 in 30?
1 in 30.
30. Yeah. So it doesn't fit either Garrick or Diggs, but
Yeah, no, I stole
Diggs got a new
Stain's
pair, though. A
shoes,
nice
right?
new pair. Whose?
I was gonna say I stole the beginning guy's shoes. We killed Obadiah. No, not Obadiah Stain. That's Iron Man. What's that guy's name?
Tony in a
He
box
built this Dragon Grim Robux.
in a cave with a box of Dragon Grin scraps. So
No, I
James,
stole somebody's shoes way before.
You did. What I'm suggesting, it's up to you. I'm suggesting that if you wanted better soldier's boots, these would be probably the only dead Marrow boots you're going to find, hopefully, for a while.
Well, we'll see. I don't know.
Oh no, man. Yeah, no, I've wrapped my feet.
Randolph.
I've wrapped my feet with gauze like a drag queen, so I think I'm good.
Fair enough. All right, cool. So you're trying to get your toes real small. That's a thing. So Ephraim, you're able to find the boots. As far as anything else valuable, you can tell that this particular group, they aren't carrying a bunch of supplies. There's obviously some sort of patrol nearby because they're not carrying travel supplies. They do have, each of them have probably a throwing dagger or two, and the standard issue sort of short swords. But apart from that, maybe one of them has a shield strapped to their back, something like that. Pretty basic stuff aside from their armor. They're just a scout patrol.
So I would take the daggers if no one else wants them. And then that was the other reason why I asked, because I wanted to see if they were loaded up for travel, and if they're not, that means that they set out not too long ago from an outpost or a larger party of Marrow. So we got to move pretty quickly. So
I was actually going to ask, maybe Diggs might know how much time we've got, or maybe where the nearest place is, or where these guys came from.
Yeah, I would say that you would. So the patrols in the mountains stick to the paths, and you would know that there are definitely some mining outposts around here, and the Marrow typically squat there. So this is not a great gig. Patrolling the mountains is sort of lazy Marrow work. They get a little lazy up here. So, you can go either north or south on the road, and that is where the Marrow would probably be. So patrolling up those roads in one of these sort of minor houses and these little things like that.
So basically we need to stay off the roads when we move.
That's that's the safest bet. If you can catch it between patrols, it's much easier and quicker for you to travel. As far as how much time you have, you probably have a decent amount before these guys would be noticed missing, because like I said, it's pretty relaxed up here. There's not a lot of activity.
Yeah.
So probably a day.
Do we want to basically just dig these guys a shallow grave and then get out of here as quickly as possible? Fellows?
Yes,
I think
we do.
Yep. Yeah, at that point is when Diggs gives the final look at the crosses on top of the hill. Fine. We'll hide the corpses.
And Ephraim sort of grabbing a shovel. Do we have shovels, by the way? Where are we getting these shovels from?
There was a Home Depot just a couple miles down the road.
There was
fiberglass shovel. That's $10, man. I mean,
I'm gonna
you can't
3D
beat
print
that.
one.
I take the orange laminate off the head. Yeah. Come on.
You certainly don't have shovels.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. The only thing that I will let you sort of cheaty is when you left Red Sail Market, I gave all of you the option to choose either a McDouble or chicken nuggets. No, you basically could choose. No question. You could either choose a piece of equipment. In this case, you could lie to me and say you chose a shovel, or a weapon. that was previously owned. So if anybody wants to narrate that you would have thought to bring a shovel, that actually wouldn't be a bad idea in the mountains.
I actually have a better idea that will probably be better for us in the long run. Ephraim, while we're sitting here kind of like, wait, do we have shovels? And we're kind of like looking around. Ephraim kind of gets this look on his face. Just strip off their armor. Take off their armor. We only have to bury the armor. I can take care of the bodies.
And Rudy would absolutely be interested in whatever sort of way of thinking he was going. He would begin stripping and moving the armor and doing his best just to bury the bodies.
And once the armor is off of them, Ephraim would kind of start pulling them together, start pulling the bodies close to each other, and sort of direct everyone to help him. And once they're sort of laid out close to each other, Ephraim concentrates and he closes his one good eye, and you can see him kind of, you see his eye beneath his eyelid kind of moving very erratically. And his eye opens, and his orange eye, it kind of seems a little bit more vibrant. And he snaps his fingers, and a bonfire erupts from beneath these two bodies. And I cast Create Bonfire. I can create a bonfire on the ground that I can see within range. Until the spell ends, it lasts for a minute, but I can keep casting it because it's a cantrip. Any creature in the bonfire space must succeed on a dexterity saving throw. They're dead. They automatically fail. They take 1d8 fire damage. Basically, I just want to keep this bonfire going until these bodies are unrecognizable, until they're charred and ashen.
Yeah, and I would say that it's not very long before that happens. Within 5 or 7 minutes, it's essentially just ash and bone.
And Ephraim doesn't say a word. He just stares at this bonfire, just concentrating, and you can see his eye just kind of you can't tell if his eye seems to be flickering because of the fire, because of it being reflected in his eye, or if there's something weird going on, but he's basically just concentrating and controlling this flame and keeping it at a constant, really high heat until the bodies are just dust. And then the fire kind of starts to die down, and he looks at the other three and kind of says, do you think that'll work? You think that's okay?
Diggs would put a hand on Ephraim's shoulder and say nothing, but just kind of nod.
And that would probably mean more to Ephraim than any sort of vocal affirmation, just seeing you nod. And he would kind of ease out a breath. Okay, then, I'm ready to go whenever you guys are.
Aye. Shall we?
And Rudy would sort of nod along, same thing, like, hey, good enough for me.
Yes, let's get out of here quickly.
Through the grip.
And I think it's sort of like a narrative thing to kind of show how far you've come since the day you were crucified, that no one even commented or noticed the horrific smell. Just in the midst, that's just what happens now. And so, so you can head through the grip any way you choose, which is essentially the way that Diggs, the way you explained it to me, is that on the map that we are all sharing and kind of using as this hex crawl, you're trying to go west and through the grip. You can do that any way you guys want. There are roads that run north and south, and those sort of go around, and that's the easier path. That's where the patrols are going to be. You can go through. But Diggs, you would know in this area there are ogres that live in these mountains. So you kind of got to pick your poison. Do you want Marrow patrols or ogres? So if you guys are going to head through the grips, you got to tell me how.
We'll have to be careful. But west of the mountains, I know a place. I know some people. We'll be able to get supplies. We might even be able to get, I don't know, out of here. It will be arduous. There are
Out of Grin?
out of trouble.
Which I think only happens if we get out of Grin.
He laughs as you say that, and as the realization dawns on him. And he almost said ogres, and he's very happy that you interrupted him. So he says, "There's things." And he looks to you, nods to you, Ephraim. You've spoken about these things with him in private around the campfire. He knows that you know, but he looks to everyone else. Keep your weapons handy, if you're bold enough for it. And he looks to the west.
I'll face anything that isn't a Marrow. I'm good to go any direction you choose, Diggs. Lead the way.
And Rudy would likely nod to this, kind of similarly following, whatever happened after not feeling so bad about witch bolting a Marrow after, one of his compatriots bonfired the two others. I think he understands we're all kind of on the same path here.
Think any things are better than the dismembered lord's things.
Into the west. I would imagine that's where Diggs would head. He'd just start stomping off in that direction as the party moves.
The mountains of the grip are unforgiving, and your pace is slow. You are going to have to rest soon. And so you need to choose a place to do so. So as you continue west over the mountains, you get probably about half a day's journey in a day. But you're getting hungry. You're getting thirsty. You can proceed on, though it might be taxing to your bodies. But the journey has been uneventful, so you also have momentum here. Luck is on your side. Perhaps the Lady of the Wood is looking over you. You feel like you can make it over the next big peak if you press through. But again, it might cost you something physically.
Diggs has a tendency to lose track of the people who are following him, and he has a large stride. He's walked everywhere his whole life. He was a war maker. He looks to the peak and continues towards it. If anyone else speaks up and says, "Hey, maybe we should stop," he might pay attention to it, but that's his goal. He knows what lies beyond. He knows where the scrape is. He knows once he reaches that, he knows that he's on the right track, but they just have to get there. And so he's not going to stop until he reaches the top of that peak or until someone says something.
And Garrick definitely would not say anything. He wants to keep up. He's young and wants to impress Diggs. And we'll just keep on marching.
Tim, is there any way while we're marching that Ephraim could kind of he's used to scraping by and finding food and stuff where he can. Is there a way that I can sort of like forage while we're walking and keep an eye out for like fruit, berries, edible leaves, just anything that we could use to get some calories in us?
Yeah, for sure. So it would just be a basic, some sort of check, whatever that looks like for you. If you have some sort of like knowledge that would base it, or some sort of survival skill, or anything, or just straight wisdom. I mean, however you want to roll that.
Yeah, I'd probably do survival.
Okay.
Which I'm okay in survival, so I'll try that.
Okay.
I've got nature too, that's a little bit better, but I think this is less like knowing things and more just like keeping an eye out for stuff.
Sure. I also want it to be sort of random as far as what you find in the mountains, because they're living and moving.
Right.
So it's going to be a base of 9, and I'm going to roll a D8 to get to let you know what your check is to do that. So okay. So you need to hit a DC 16.
Did not happen. I got 11 total.
Gotcha. So you're able to look and maybe find a couple of things here and there, but nothing to sustain you, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I would take a few swigs of water. I have a full water skin. Take a few swigs of water and also pass it around and allow everyone else to drink water as well. But I come up short foraging for stuff.
Sure.
And sort of, like you said, I think pushing on Diggs, Rudy would be the first probably to speak up that maybe we need to slow down and maybe we need to take a moment struggling, even with his staff as walking stick. He would have a little bit of trouble and hope to even slow down for just a moment, not even make camp. But I mean, if he could convince everyone else, certainly, but at least to just walk a little slower.
Diggs looks surprised when you even begin to make a noise. It's almost like he forgot. Of course, he stops immediately. He looks around. He looks for Ephraim. He says, and he actually says to Garrick, "What do you think about here to set up camp?" And he looks around.
This looks good to me. I think we could use a rest.
Yeah, we've been climbing for a bit, and I think we put enough distance between ourselves and what happened back there. We should still probably have a watch.
At that, Rudy would just breathe heavily, climbing, the elevation beginning to get to him, and shake his head, sort of not forcefully, but like definitely agreeing with what Ephraim had to say.
So you'd be able to find a place nestled in these mountains, somewhere maybe to guard your back against some rock, or perhaps near a copse of trees, something like that. So you don't have to go into the minutia of setting up camp unless you feel like you want to role play that. But I assume you guys would set up a reasonable, safe camp, and Ephraim, you mentioned a watch. So what does something like that look like?
So I was actually going to offer to take first watch, because I wanted to build something while everyone else was sleeping and be able to keep an eye on things as well. So I imagine maybe like, during an 8-hour rest, you don't need to be sleeping the whole time. So maybe we do like 2 hours each person for a watch. So then we get, 8 hours total, and everyone gets 6 hours of sleep and 2 hours of rest.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
So Ephraim sort of offers to take first watch and then goes, "Who wants to get woken up in 2 hours?"
Diggs grumbles, me, something like that.
All right, I'll wake you up, Diggs. And I imagine like we may have even got like a little like low, easy to conceal fire going just to keep the chill off of us. And Ephraim sort of hunkers down, maybe a little ways off from camp, so he's able to see away from sort of the glare of the fire, he's able to allow himself to see a little bit better. And he takes out his old crossbow, and it's this crossbow that he's had for probably many years. In fact, maybe it's even something that Rovira gave to him when they were still together. And he takes out this crossbow and he kind of like sights down it and sighs, seeing that he can't really aim down the sights with one eye covered, one eye gone. And he's kind of sitting there thinking, and he brings out his thieves' tools, this kind of basically like a little rolled up satchel, and he unrolls it and he's looking at all these tools, and he has his rope, and he's going to try and make like a little crossbow trap, basically to try and catch some food. So he sort of takes the crossbow and fashions kind of a trip wire of sorts, where if something nudges this rope, it'll pull the trigger on the crossbow and shoot a bolt up into whatever was tripping the wire. So basically the crossbow will be kind of like angled up next to the wire, so whoever steps in it it'll shoot up into him. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and do the this is so cool, the Xanathar's Guide extra stuff you can do with toolkits. And one of the things you can do with thieves tools is you can try and make a trap. So basically I make a check using my thieves tools, and that check determines the DC that you need to make to discover or disable or avoid the damage of the trap. It basically like sets the DC of it. So it's 10 on the dice. And then let's see. My thieves tool, I actually have pretty awesome on my thieves tools here. So that's 16 total. So that'll create a DC 16 trap.
Yeah, so the dismembered lord tries to sneak up on us. He gets caught right in it. And that's it, man.
He's like,
it's over.
Yeah. He gets super dismembered.
Yeah. He's like, come on,
You're
guys.
the reason.
Got my toe. You got my toe.
So it's not going to do a ton of damage. It's a little crossbow, but it will probably kill a small animal. And if it's someone sneaking up on us, it will at least hurt them and alert us to their presence. So Ephraim spends about an hour making this, and then sort of sets it up a little ways off from camp in maybe like the deer trail leading up to the camp or whatever, so that if someone is approaching, they might trip up over it.
Sure, that's great. So again, in the nature of treating this as a survival kind of campaign, what I'm going to do is roll to see your chances of something actually coming by at all. So that'll be the first thing. And I like that sort of 30% chance, just as a good kind of. Okay. Okay. So Ephraim, how do you keep watch? What do you do to keep yourself busy?
I mostly just maybe like sharpen my knives, clean my short sword, clean the blood off of it from the marrow. I didn't have a chance to really clean the blood off, so I take some time to do that. And then I maybe just kind of like fidget with my the chest piece that I wear around my neck. I kind of take that off and fidget with it and just look out into the wilderness and listen. Mostly my eyesight is not great anymore, but I can still hear really well. So I just sit there and listen for anything that is snapping through the brush, any displaced wind or anything like that. I'm just listening for anything that might be getting close to us.
Sure. And, there are various creatures. So you hear things off in the distance here and there, but you can usually tell, especially after spending a day or two here, what is the skitter of a small nervous animal and what is like a footstep or the gait of a human walking or a creature. So you hear a lot of skittering here and there occasionally. But then you hear some skittering kind of close. And your tripwire goes off. And so this is probably almost to the end of your watch. In fact, you might have been getting ready to get up and go wake up Diggs. It's an ogre. No. That's what Matt said in the chat. Oh,
It's a poison ogre.
don't eat me. Write the ogre. Sing the ogre. So trip the ogre, shoot the ogre. You hear a very high-pitched squeal, sort of. And something has triggered your trap.
I would this is probably getting towards the end of my 2-hour stint anyway, so I would kind of reach back and nudge the huge boot of Diggs, and for some reason I imagine that he has one big toe sticking out the end of this boot. I don't know why. I just picture that like hobo boot with a big old black toe just sticking out of it. And I would kind of nudge his boot and say, "Hey, Diggs.
My turn.
Yeah, just watch the camp for a second. I got to go check on something." And I'll go check on my trap.
So as you approach it, it's small creature, looks like some sort of weasel or something like that. And it's got the bolt right through its neck. So your aim was pretty good. And it's dead. It looks like you killed it in one shot. Looks like a clean kill.
Awesome. So Ephraim would actually kind of go, right. And he'll come up and he'll grab the weasel and he'll kind of take a couple minutes to reset the trap, put another bolt in the crossbow and reset it just in case. And then he'll go back to camp. And I imagine Diggs is now awake, and I'll kind of hold up the weasel that has a bolt sticking through it. Just kind of like, hey.
In the firelight, you can see a massive grin on Diggs's face. He's shocked and surprised. He said, "No, you. No."
Yeah, me. I set a trap. Used my old crossbow. Managed to get us some food. Want to save it till morning? Have breakfast?
Breakfast. Yes.
Perfect. So I'll kind of I'll use my rope and I'll put it up somewhere high so it's not out on the ground where some other big predator can come and get it. And then I'll kind of pat Diggs on the back and I'll find a spot. We don't have bedrolls or blankets or anything, so I'll just find a comfortable rock to lay my head on. And I'm kind of laying there, and a couple minutes, just total silence, and then I go. And I roll over and I look at Diggs and I go, "The hell happened today? What was all that with Rudy?"
Diggs starts in on an answer, and then you ask, "What was all that with Rudy?" And he says, "Rudy." He looks over to Rudy sleeping. I imagine Rudy is sound asleep. And he shakes his head. "I've seen people go mad. But that's..." Hears him hiccup in the sleep, and he stops talking.
Rudy
silence befalls.
Rudy is sleeping in desperate need of a CPAP machine.
You hear his tss, the occasional just tss, air disbursement. He looks back to Ephraim and he says, "I have no idea. And there's nothing more in this world that scares me. There's nothing in this world that scares me more than what I don't know."
I don't know. I've never seen him act like that. It was almost like he was a different person. He looked at that Marrow and they died. I don't know
He
if
looks
I'm,
at you. What? No, surely not.
I mean, listen, it happened so fast, I can't be sure, but it looked like he just killed him. Just magic I think magic can do things like that, but I've never seen anything like that. you've seen me. It's just parlor tricks. It's just fire, snuffing out fire and lighting fires. He killed him with a look, in a moment, in a second. And he did it without thinking. We're lucky we're still alive. That could have gone. What if there were more Marrow, Diggs? What if there were 5 or 6 or 7? What if there were 12 of them? We wouldn't be here with a fresh caught weasel for breakfast, that's for sure.
He nods and then says, "Might be useful to have a few more of him, though." Looks to Rudy, once again sleeping on the ground.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm glad he's on our side. Still, I'm going to keep an eye on him. One eye. I can laugh
As long
about
as I
it
can
now.
spare it.
It's been a few days. And he'll kind of just look at you for a second longer. Night, Diggs. And then roll over and try to sleep.
Diggs wishes you good night. He stands up, almost begins to walk out to the deer trails just to see what's up, remembers what you said about a trap, stops, and just kind of plants his butt back at the campsite and just, he'll hunt with his ears for now.
I like how I didn't let anyone know. Oh, by the way, when you get up to take a piss in the middle of the night, don't go down the deer trail more than 10 feet.
I was fully ready to go just right in there if you didn't tell Diggs and just went to bed. I was like, all right, well, he's going to go to the deer trail. Worked out.
It isn't long into Diggs' watch before something actually happens that Dig can't quite perceive. So, Diggs, what does your watch look like? What does Diggs do on watch?
Diggs looks to the opening, the gap, the one entrance into the camp. He's always sure that there's one entrance, one clean, clear entrance. To the back, there's the wall, but during the camp, he's always finding himself habitually looking back to the entrance because that's usually where the tripwire is. That's where that's where the primary defenses are. That's where they would trip up their enemies, and he finds himself falling into these habitual roles that he would take on under the service of the dismembered lord, and he gets irritated with it and by it, and so he would do a lot of pacing and a lot of looking back to the entrance.
And as you do these things, Garrick, you're not awake, but you're not dreaming. It's almost annoying at this point, but you're elsewhere. And you feel a presence not far from you. And if you were to open your eyes, there's a pale-faced creature laying right next to you, face to face, almost nose to nose. And he says, "Good morning, Garrick."
Garrick actually just just kind of blinks and then rolls over.
And he says, "You don't have to wake up. But I just wanted to tell you about your..." And he's on the other side of you immediately. So in the thought, he's just there. And it's like, whether your eyes are open or closed, you can still see him. It's terrible. And he says, "Your friend with the 2 lives, the old man, the young man, the Randolph, we'll call him. Just guard the book. And Nate, if you were to look where Rudy Randolph is sleeping, wherever he keeps his possessions. In fact, Rudy Randolph, where would you keep your possessions while you were sleeping?
So I think last, excuse me, he had sort of a satchel, leather, I don't know, something like that. I imagine this book would be in there, and he'd probably sleep with it right on him, you know, like just strapped over him. It wouldn't be next to him or anything. It'd be around him, and he'd be lying, you know, feet crossed, staring up at the sky, eyes closed, sleeping. So basically right on his person.
And you would see that book, and almost as though everything else was translucent for a moment, the book itself would be there, and you would see that it glows, this strange, various colors, and it's just glowing. And he just says, just be mindful of it. I must leave you now for some time, and the lady's protection is not as strong where you're going. Through these mountains, it's, we will say, not our territory. So I won't be able to help you as much, but is there anything you have questions about now, while I'm still here?
Yes, actually, there's. Is his power like mine? Is he connected to the lady or to someone else? And he points to Rudy.
And Piotr really makes a meal out of it. He's like, oh, do you think? Let me see. And he sort of tiptoes over really theatrically, and he rubs his finger like against Rudy's like dirty old man arm, and he goes, no, not the same flavor as us. But he has a flavor. It is a mixture, you might say. He reeks of the bleak and the magics of it. He tastes like a wizard. Or a homeless. Maybe a little of both.
Huh. Thank you. I don't have any more questions that I'm not afraid of the answers to.
Yes. You are growing stronger. I'm to give this to you. And he snaps his fingers, and there's a leaf, a single leaf, and it looks as though someone with an infinitesimal knife has carved a pattern in it, straight through. And it's extremely intricate, and he hands it to you. He says, this is the blessing of the lady. Use it when you are in trouble, and you will find her hand, even if we cannot reach you. And Nate, mechanically, essentially, if you call it, if you use that leaf, you get advantage on a roll.
Yeah, it's a toll-free leaf. That's a 1-800 number in the U.S.
It's a burner. It's a warlock burner.
It's a burner, a warlock burner leaf.
Hello, lady.
You get a
lady. Lady, can you hear me?
Snap it.
You open it up. You open it up, and it says, "Mom, pick me up now. I'm ready." And it just ends. It's a collect leaf.
It's a collect leaf.
Tim, this I'm thinking this could also. So at level 3, I get a pact boon.
Cool.
So I'm thinking it could be that too. Maybe it's good for one use of, getting advantage on a roll, but it could also be, and this might not even be known to Garrick yet. Maybe,
Sure. Yeah, I dig that. Super dig that.
But I think I can't find it on my character sheet, but it was something about blade something or other. I can create a weapon.
Pact blade, right?
Yeah, something like
Blade
that.
Pact.
Yeah, sure.
And so here's the thing. So what I'll let you do is, and you don't have to decide right now, but we can say that it begins the leaf, and if you want, when it touches your hand, it can sort of morph, sort of like roots into your hand, and maybe even be like a tattoo or something, or whatever you want. Essentially, since this is such a big part of your character, once he hands it over to you, I'll let it become whatever you want it to. In that way, and you don't have to decide that immediately. So
yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I see it now. It is Pact of the Blade. So anyway, yeah, I'll keep that and not like start swinging around magical weapons immediately, but
sure,
work that in here and there.
Sure. And about that quickly, Piotr is gone.
And Garrick rolls over and just tries to go back to sleep. Probably unsuccessfully.
Yeah, if he was ever really awake, and it's unrestful either way. In the nature of our hex crawl sort of survival campaign, I'm going to roll on a D100 to see if something attacks you. That's just going to be the way it is. I'm not usually big on random encounters because I like to control the pace of the narrative. But
and the only time you've tried a random encounter, you got dude peeing in bush, and that's just like compared to the others on the table.
What about what's that thing called? The
Tarask.
Yeah, no, Barker the Tarask. That's what I was thinking of. No, not the infamy system, but what's the other one? Treacherous Travel. Boom. Give me that treacherous travel.
Available on Kickstarter now.
Make it treacherous, baby.
Wow.
All right, so luckily for you, the rest of the watch is fairly uneventful.
What's the opposite of treacherous? That's what we did.
There are
pleasurous.
There are moving sidewalks throughout Dragon Grin.
Exactly. There was a marked path. We had the little orange things that showed us, and then we went, and it was beautiful, and it was wonderful, and it was great. Session over.
And yeah, I am really surprised because there was a very, very small chance. I was kind of hoping on a random encounter, but the die are the die. And so, however you guys want to play it, but the rest of the watches, however they unfold, are uneventful. And Ephraim, you catch no more game in your trap. So this actually will be a player choice. If you guys want to role play, like waking up and have a breakfast scene with the weasel and all that stuff, I'm super down with running that. If you want to just say we scrounged, we ate the weasel and some berries and pressed on, we can do that too. So I'll leave that up to you guys.
I think Ephraim said what he needed to say to Diggs while their watches sort of crossed over. So yeah, I think we eat that weasel. Ephraim would pick up his trap, disable it, and then pick it up so we can use it again. And I say we head out.
Yep.
Yeah, en route to that mountain peak, maybe Diggs is picking weasel out of his teeth, and he turns to Ephraim, who might catch him doing that, and he just laughs and nods. Thankfully and gratefully for the catch last night.
Honestly, I didn't think it was going to work. I was very pleasantly surprised that we got to have some meat for breakfast this morning.
And I think as the four of you pick what little bit of weasel you had from your teeth, you probably eat it. And you persist. So You're definitely in danger of encountering ogres. There are still some Marrow who would definitely patrol here, even if just to hide from their main patrol, to be lazy and sleep in the woods. Okay. So as you continue on your path, you reach the bridge that leads across this chasm to the scrape. And you can see ahead of you, as you sort of enter more of a clearing, there is like I said, it's a chasm that has a bridge going across it. And then on the other side, this sort of red fog, very ethereal and strange looking. Diggs, you know this as the scrape. The only problem is the bridge that's normally there is broken. So you can either turn back or you can try to find a way across.
Diggs says, bleak. Just as the curse. Looks around. This is not what he expected.
Is there another bridge? Is there another way across this chasm, or are we stuck over here?
Diggs looks up and down, leans over. No sight of anything. We could try to find another way across. We could climb.
Yeah, maybe we should scout one way or the other, see if there's maybe, I don't know, a place where the chasm's a little narrower. We could maybe even jump across or drop a branch across or something.
Rudy would probably have some, not anecdote, but like a phrase or quote about, looking for the smallest path between, whatever. Generally an unhelpful thing that implies that, yeah, there's not a bridge here, so we should look for a place where a bridge is less necessary. Kind of agreeing with Ephraim.
So then, left or right?
We split up.
And Rudy would look at Diggs and kind of laugh off the definite joke that he just told, knowing that splitting up with anyone in Dragongrin is the worst kind of sort of death wish, and would look to his compatriots to hopefully stay with everyone. Again, sort of letting that joke that was told roll off of him very easily.
Ephraim actually immediately nods at Diggs and starts going in the other direction. Like, okay, cool. And then it's kind of catches Rudy's gaze and sees his face like, oh, are we not doing that then? Like, he was fully ready.
And yeah, Rudy would sort of return that like, yeah, that was a funny joke. Haha, we need all the levity we can get in a place like Dragongrin. Let's maybe all go the same way.
I hear ogres like parties of 2 better than parties of 4.
And Rudy would sort of enthusiastically, almost overly so, agree with Garrick, like, yeah, guys, see what I'm talking about?
And Diggs would say, no, they like 4 and 2 all the same.
And
but yes, you're
He
right.
has the experience on me, so
No, it's stupid to split up. You're right. We should stick together, especially here, especially when we're this close. But Ephraim, the direction that you were heading, Diggs is going to start that way too, kind of after you. Maybe we'll find if you can't cross the river, as Rudy said, find the dirt passageway, find the dirt crossing, find the rocks, find the stepping stones. Well, find the bridge, right? Find the bridge.
Yeah.
Find the bridge. That old dragon grin saying.
So Ephraim was heading off to the right. So I guess we're at this sort of chasm with the broken bridge in front of us, and Ephraim is heading off to the right.
Sure.
So that's starboard. Is that where the map takes us, or
Yeah, starboard. I'm going north by northwesterly, about 2 squares.
sounds good, man?
3 knots.
So
It's a castaway chest. Damn it.
what you do see across from you, so there's this mist. It's sort of this red mist, and you wouldn't take it as a bleak storm or actually a full roiling bleak. It's probably just and Diggs, you might even know this about the scrape, which is it's pretty rich with minerals over there and Titan technology, so it's sort of a different style of atmosphere. But you see 2 yellow eyes and then 4 yellow eyes as tusks sort of break through the mist vaguely, and you can only see these silhouetted shadows in the red mist, but they're yellow eyes as you see what could only be 2 extremely large ogres just watching you. And they're across. They can't get to you, and all you see are their silhouettes and their clubs and their yellow eyes. And you can see, Ephraim, as you start going off in that direction, it sort of just matches you, and its head is turned, but it lumbers with you, watching from the red mist.
And I would kind of look. Do you see that? They're right there. There's 2 of them. They're so big. They're dicks. They're really big. Do you see them?
I like to think this is the first time Jeremiah Diggs has ever seen an ogre. And I like to think that they are bigger than he thought they would be. He knew they'd be here, but this is kind of like a moment. And he looks to Ephraim, looks back. Ephraim, you could probably see it all over his face too. He nods. And he might say something stupid too, like, they don't look afraid at all.
Tim, how wide is this chasm? Like, how far away from us are they?
So it's difficult for you to tell, but not so far away as though a well-cast spell would perhaps get them over. They're not going to jump it, but it's not the Indiana Jones bridge. You know what I mean? Something like maybe...
Right.
I want it to be something that is difficult to perceive, but also close enough so that you feel a real threat. They're close enough.
Okay. I kind of look at everyone else. I mean, if we find a way over, it's just a way for them to get to us now. So what do we do? Do we try and pick them off from here? Do ogres jump? I don't know anything about ogres. Can they get over here? And I'm looking at Diggs like he's the foremost expert on ogres. Like he went to college for ogres.
Went to ogre college.
And he's stumbling over all the variety of ways to say, I have no idea. Just stumbling over his words. How tall are they again? I mean, they're massive creatures.
9 or 10 feet tall. I mean, at first glance. And in fact, one of them, I mean, Diggs, he's sizing you up, man. You're the big one to them. So he sort of, and you just see these, like I said, the silhouette, yellowed eyes. In game, it's probably somewhere between 40 and 60 feet, the chasm across. You can't really tell exactly how deep it is, but probably at least as deep. Yeah, they're about 9 or 10 feet tall, and they're not too far away.
And this seems like about when Rudy would pipe up. If across that chasm was your house, how comfortable would you be with someone bridging that gap? And would mostly look to sort of Garrick and Ephraim like they're as scared of us as they are of, or they're as scared of us as we are of them, except they're 2 feet taller, is what his eyes would say.
I think they kind of want us to go over there because I think they would like to eat us. Rudy. I think they would like to eat us and suck the marrow from our bones.
So at least we're on the same page of the spell book. Maybe somewhere along this chasm is where we make camp, but across it is not a place I would venture.
Rudy, just do the thing you did yesterday to that marrow. Just snap your fingers and kill those ogres. Can you just do that?
Rudy, he would shoot a look to Ephraim as though they were the only two people around. It would be a somewhat biting look, a more biting look than an old man, a 55, 60-year-old man could give, and more the look of a younger man, one that's 25, 30 years old at the very, very most, thinking that he was everything. And those eyes would look over to Ephraim for just a moment, and then much softer would look to Diggs, almost to join him, to say he's not sure what he's talking about.
And Ephraim would be taken aback at this glare that he receives from, it's like seeing Rudy's face, but there's someone else staring at Ephraim from behind this visage that he knows. And so he would almost kind of take a step back as you glare at him, almost thinking like, oh shit, he's going to do it to me. Like he's going to snap his fingers and I'm going to explode. And so he takes a step back and then kind of eases out of breath as you look over at Diggs. Sorry, I'm at a loss as to what to do here. We've got Marrow at our backs, ogres across the chasm. We're probably going to have to fight our way through this one way or the other.
And Rudy would look at Ephraim and, again, with the softer look, say something to the effect of, I'm not sure there's any marrow behind us. And almost laugh it off as though it was no problem. As though a few ants were following us and Rudy decided to use, these new shoes he found to step on them.
Well, I mean, I've got a few tricks that I've been working on. I mean, Garrick, you have a few things too. I mean, ogres are dumb, right? We could try and scare them off. We could make it seem like we are all powerful, and if we start slinging spells at them, maybe they'll run. Maybe they'll go.
I agree. I think we should try to spook them. And you would actually see like just this little like flash and hear a crackle in Garrick's hand that's on his staff. And he like kind of catches himself and like trying to hold it back.
Okay, yeah, we can do something like that. Like, what do you have in mind, Garrick? What do you? I can make fire. That's kind of my the extent of my thing at this point is I can make fire. If you have something else, we could use it.
Well, I could create. No, it wouldn't reach. Let's see. I could send a burst their way. It would look at them. It would feel like a mosquito bite, but I could try it. Might do something.
Can't you? And he looks to you, Garrick, and actually kind of side glance to Rudy. One of you, can't you make something that's not there? I mean, you said they're stupid. He looks to Ephraim. And as you said that, it was funny because that was when Diggs was like motioning to see if they'd follow the wave as well, because he's not too smart either, but he says, I don't know, what if you closed the chasm? What if there were a pathway between them and us? At least what if they thought there were? Don't you think they would take it to get to us?
I might be able to do something like that. Hang on, let me look at my character sheet.
I did not take that spell.
Hold on, wait. Who didn't take prestidigitation?
I have prestidigitation.
But you can't make a
say,
massive bridge
10
with
feet.
prestidigitation.
No,
Even
it's range
better.
10 feet too.
Yeah.
I was going to say, even better, I have silent image.
Silent image is better than prestidigitation in this case because, as Nate pointed out, prestidigitation has a range of 10 feet, and that's it. So
yeah, we're talking a range of 60 feet, and honestly, so silent image is a first level illusion. I create the image of an object, a creature, or some other visible phenomenon that is no larger than a 15-foot cube. The image appears at a spot within the range of 60 feet, which lasts for the duration. It is very obviously sort of dispelled by touching it, but anything beyond that, like it doesn't make noise. But so, for example, if say Rudy would probably ask, "What do you suppose an ogre fears?" Or would something as simple as a bridge do the job? Sort of implying, of course, that, hey, if they did have a way to get to us, would they rush toward it and fall into this chasm?
I think if they were presented with a way to get to us, they'd probably try and take it, unless they're a lot smarter than I give them credit for.
And looking at Ephraim, especially if nobody sort of piped up, Rudy would cast this first level illusion within 60 feet across the chasm, sort of basically some sort of rope bridge. It likely wouldn't cover the whole thing because it can only be a 15-foot cube, but it would be most of what sort of a bridge would look like, to potentially, like Ephraim said, sort of lure them out to imply that they could make it to us.
Sure. This is brilliant. Who would be the furthest back, as we're talking, who's sort of further back towards the woods?
Are you asking who's going to get stabbed in the back by whatever's behind us?
I was going to say, so if Ephraim, sorry, not Ephraim, if Rudy, sort of giving this implication, Rudy would move as close to the chasm as he could to imply this part of a bridge. So Rudy would be probably closest to the chasm here, potentially trying to cast this illusion.
And I imagine Garrick is toward the edge of this chasm because he's about ready to cast a spell to try to maybe piss these things off enough to run toward us.
Gotcha. All right. So would that mean Diggs is furthest back?
Sure. Yeah, sure. I think I'd let the magic users up front to do their thing and try to lure the ogres into falling to their doom in the chasm, and I'd stand back and watch.
Sure, and that makes sense because I think you'd probably be the first one to notice for this reason. There's a certain sort of crackle, a very distinct pulling of energies that happens, and you're the first to notice it. It's not just in the sky above. It is in the sky above. It's not just. But it's also almost in the ground, like it's pulling something. And the hairs on your arm stand. The hairs on your neck stand. And as you see Rudy preparing to cast this spell, and as, they're talking, over your shoulder, you notice the clouds begin to swirl. You notice the vortex begin to form. And you see the white clouds in a blue sky begin to take a blood red hue. It's far in the distance, but this is something that you know all too well. In fact, Diggs, this is something you were probably a part of. At least at some point in your career. Far enough away to be looming danger, but close enough to be deadly. The sky rips open like a mouth. And an enormous obsidian obelisk drops from it. A finger. you hear the silent whistle. It doesn't sound like an object being dropped. It almost sounds like a lich screaming. It's like, and you hear it hit the ground, hopefully a mile away, maybe closer. And as the red swirl stays sort of present, you know what that means. So back to Rudy. You're going to cast the spell on the bridge.
Yeah, so Rudy,
I like how Tim's like, all right, so you casting a little spell then. Okay, let's hear what that's all about.
So you get your lunchbox out.
Yeah, Rudy decides that he didn't brine his Thanksgiving dinner long enough, and he's gonna back off. He's also gonna throw himself into the casting.
So
no,
that
but
guys,
so go ahead. Sorry,
I was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say, just so that you know, the fingers, if you don't remember from the first session, are those drop ships for the Marrow and potentially War Makers, and that one dropped a certain number of miles away that I just rolled on a d4.
Miles. That's probably 1d4, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and lay that out for you.
It is 1d4.
It is one. No, but I mean like 1 on a d4 is what I meant to say.
Oh,
So
hey, I rolled what I rolled. They're that
he
many
rolled
miles
a
away.
1, so that's what I'm letting everybody know. But with that said, Rudy, sort of having been in the middle, would make as much of sort of a rickety wooden bridge across this chasm as he could to draw these ogres out. Probably not realizing at the time, or at least realizing too late, that the fingers, or this particular finger, was dropping down for the Marrow to land on him.
Say the last part again. Was that? Were you joke? Did you say the what?
I was making a joke about the finger particularly landing on him. Hopefully, it was at least 1 mile away. But
Gotcha. No, okay. Yeah.
Specifically, he wouldn't stop because I imagine he would cast his illusion, everything would happen, and then it'd be a little bit.
That's
too
how I
late to
imagine it
stop.
as well.
Yeah.
Yep. So I need to know where this bridge appears in relation to the already existing. We'll say that there's like a little bit of one side of a bridge and a little bit of another. So it's a broken bridge. Are you going to try to extend one side or kind of do like a floaty middle thing?
No. So if there's pieces of a bridge, Rudy would make it look as much as possible on their side, on the ogre side, that there was a whole bridge. Obviously, with it's only a 15-foot sort of cube. So if say this was a 30-foot chasm, for instance, only 15 feet of it would look. But if an ogre hopefully glanced at it, they would think they could rush across toward us and kill us.
Sure. And the ogre seemed to disappear for a moment. And then a foot emerges from the red mist. It's huge. It's wrapped in animal skins and furs. There's like one raccoon face on the side there. Poor buddy. This enormous 9-foot creature steps out of the mist. And it's looking at your bridge. It grins, looks behind it, and waves the other ogre across. And it begins a full charge. Describe to me what it looks like as it gets to your portion of the bridge. Because it charges.
So yeah, this bridge is. I haven't seen the movie, but Ready Player One style. This bridge sort of extends out from their side. I know, right? What a weird thing to say. Extends out from their side as though it exists, but the moment just a little bit, this illusion, this false image, I believe it's called. The moment this ogre begins to try to step on this false image over this gorge, that's probably who knows how many feet down to just the tiniest little stream, with all the sort of guile and rage in this thing, it steps like you're walking and you didn't realize there was a curb there and you just step down, except for that it's a potentially 60 feet or more fall. So the look on this ogre's face is just immeasurable. The amount of a mistake that he has made running across this bridge that is absolutely not there.
Yeah. And he falls. It's about 40 or 60 feet to the bottom. And so let's see if the fall kills him. Ooh, his ogre's toast, boy.
You truncheon.
You bloody truncheon. So this ogre is a heap of maimed flesh. Just twisted, snapped, but living at the bottom of this chasm. It probably won't be going anywhere for some time if it makes it, but it is certainly not dead. The other one following sort of stops and falls very confused onto its rear end.
One down. Ephraim will follow up by creating a bonfire under this ogre's butt now that it's sitting down.
Do it big.
So it needs to make a dexterity saving throw, DC 13.
Okay. Thank you, D&D Beyond.
I was going to make that joke. Parker and James both got it.
Yeah, I see what you did there. All right. So that would be... No, it does not make it.
Okay. So it's going to take 1d8 fire damage. 7.
Okay.
Nice. So 7 fire damage.
Okay.
So Ephraim, he's going to sort of create the bonfire like immediately behind the ogre so that it's sort of getting singed, but I'm trying to nudge it towards the hole in the bridge basically with this fire. Basically making it so that it would have to pass through the fire again to get back to its side of the bridge. And Ephraim will snap his fingers and create the fire, and he'll call out to the ogre like, "Come on, you big idiot. Come on over here. Come on, we're right here. Easy meal. Easy meal. Come on over."
And the ogre's just like, it's very confused. The fire roars. James, when this spell, does it dissipate if touched?
So it's not so much that it dissipates, but it's very clear, like it doesn't hold up to any interaction. So it says physical interaction with the image reveals it to be an illusion, only because it can pass through it. So depending on how smart the ogres are, if one falls through, the other one may not realize that's why.
Sure. And that's what I was going for. I didn't know if it dissipated upon touch, but hey.
Yeah, no, they have to examine it with a investigation check against my spell save DC, which is 14 or something. So if he stops to look at it, yes. If he follows immediately, no, it's falling right in the gorge tube.
And this is the same one that was eyeballing you, Diggs. This is the same one, and it sort of is like looking at you. And as a matter of pride, and it runs across the bridge and falls into the chasm.
No. I was like, I'm going to jump out and reach it halfway, and we'll embrace in the middle of the chasm.
Father! He's jumping towards
You do a Dutch? Yeah, what's the matter? Dismember dog got you pushing too many pencils.
The way that trailed off was perfect.
Right? Just a sneaky ogre pencil trail off. What the hell was that?
Oh man, so I rolled a little higher, but still, it's really hard to kill these guys with falling damage when it's such a short amount and they have such high hit points. So, what happens is that ogre falls on the other ogre, killing it. So the first ogre is dead. The second ogre is not, but is now laying in a bigger heap of ogre pieces.
The first ogre like just getting up, like, oh man, that really hurt, and then the other ogre landed on him.
He had just splinted his leg, and he was like,
"Boy, I narrowly escaped it on that one, didn't I?" So both ogres are not an immediate threat. We'll put it that way.
"All right, Rudy, can you make one that works now?"
And Rudy would sort of turn to Garrick and wink, but sort of a knowing wink, like, nah, I don't build bridges. I just trick ogres into falling into gorges. All of that said by that sort of simple old man crow's feet wink.
That worked so much better than I was anticipating. Rudy, that totally makes up for you just slaughtering those Marrow yesterday. Good job, man.
And Rudy looks at Ephraim and sort of, I'm trying to think of even what he would say, but he would sort of make light of the situation as though he didn't just kill two creatures, but in the land of Grin, staying alive is so much more paramount to anything else that it's almost a joke that, yeah, we tricked them into dying instead of us, you know? So I don't know what that looks like or sounds like, but I think Ephraim would get it.
So now oh, hey, so wait, did all of us see the finger falling from the sky? Or at least are aware of the huge sound that it made?
There would be no chance that you wouldn't have noticed it in that moment. But I would say super simultaneous, sort of like adrenaline, ogres falling, like
it all sort of happened at the same time. Yeah,
sure. Like,
did it fall like behind us, like from the direction we came?
That's correct. Yep.
So I would say, okay, now we really do have Marrow at our back, and probably a lot of them, and maybe some other crazy stuff, like the stuff that happened at Aberworth. We got to get over this chasm somehow.
It's just too much. I'm out of ideas.
I mean, we can't just stay here. They'll kill us. They'll just swarm right over us. We've made it so far. If we can make it over this chasm, we can't just die here.
What are we trying so hard to survive for? What's the purpose? I don't want to die.
Rudy, maybe Randolph, I can't remember anybody's names. Randolph would look at Garrick, and again with that vigor of a younger man. When he said, oh, "What are we surviving for?" You know, he would look at him and say, "We're surviving for every person that was put on a cross, and we're surviving for every man that was put down by a finger that falls a mile away. We're surviving for every single person that lives underneath the thumb of the dismembered Lord. Don't you ever forget." And in the middle of his sentence, almost, Rudy's back. "Garrick, don't you ever forget. We need to cross this chasm. We need to live. We climbed off of those crosses, old man and young," and points at him. We're the light in this darkness. Ogres are no match for us. And even Rudy, sort of belying this old man with some measure of a younger man in him. The chasm is no match for us. And I think Rudy would run and jump over the edge of the chasm, casting Featherfall on himself. But I guess, I don't know, hoping that everyone else figured something out.
As he falls, you all have Featherfall prepared, right?
Hey guys, you got this covered, right? I'm
I love
safe.
that. We're gonna
So-
do this together.
I got the
See you later.
There better be a
Rudy,
DeLorean floating in there that you're going to land on, James.
Rudy got the base jumping kit at the last city. Did you guys not get that? The base jumping kit.
You guys got that parachute, right? Just hop off, just pull it. You a couple foot before the ground, you'll be fine.
Diggs, you pegged me right.
So Rudy gives this speech, this inspiring speech, and Ephraim is just kind of nodding along. And he says, yeah, exactly. We got to survive long enough so that we have time to figure out why we fought so hard to survive. That's exactly. And then Rudy kind of runs past him as he's saying that, and it jumps, and he goes, "What the hell? Why does he keep doing this?" And he would scramble to the edge and look over.
And as this happens, as Rudy takes this moment to inspire and leave, the branches in the tree line begin to rustle.
So real quick, one thing I do want to mention, and I don't know if everybody know this or how this will work out, but Featherfall is up to 5 creatures within range. Just throwing that out there. Not sure how they would know that or if they would know that, but just want to put it out there.
Maybe Rudy says, like, I don't know, jump, just trust me before.
Exactly. Like something like he would. He certainly wouldn't leave it to the fates, but the idea is, he would, I don't know, follow me. Like he would probably sing that Bare Naked Ladies. No, that's not Bare Naked Ladies.
No, you're like Willy Wonka, dude. We're floating around, burping out bubbles.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. It's been 1 week since you jumped over the chasm. So Rudy does give some implication to everyone that this is a good idea and floats slowly. I don't know. Something like that.
Modest Mouse, float on. There we go.
There we go.
No, Nate. Bare Naked Ladies 1 week.
1 week.
That's where we're going.
Because Rudy can't remember which 90s song it is that tells them.
And Nickelback, duh. So I also want to remind you guys that this is exactly how Rudy got you out of the Bleak Storm. He cast, I thought he cast Featherfall on something.
Oh yeah, Featherfall to run. Oh, I forgot about that.
That's
a good
right.
one.
Okay,
so
so
I
we
raised
would
the Featherfall.
know. Okay.
So you would
got the context, yeah.
at least a little bit to kind of throw that in there for you guys.
I forgot about that. Okay, then so I sort of scramble over the side and I see Rudy falling much slower than he should be falling. And you said there was like rustling in the trees?
So yes, there's rustling in the trees, and you see some sort of like movement, and the trees, open and flooding through is Mathias with some of the other people. He says, My friends, quickly, they're coming. We'll hold them off as long as we can.
Wait, the Marrow are coming from from the thing?
Yes. I don't know how they found us. I don't know why they're here, but they would not have sent a finger if it wasn't important. Come now. And these bedraggled peasants with little more than sharpened sticks, staves, the occasional rusted sword, maybe a dozen of them are with Mathias, some very young, perhaps maybe even the boy, Barker, that you made contact with, has a helm on that's too big for him. Helm's deep status, and he's like, yes, go. We will We will do what we can.
No way. I'm not letting you stand here to die. You've got to come with us, or we're staying here to fight with you.
Fair enough. We'll come with you. And immediately he starts shepherding. What? He starts shepherding everybody. Like, yes, follow them. Yes, follow the big one. Yes, it's just as I said. They will protect us.
This is like a terrible Rick and Morty episode.
Oh my God, this guy is amazing. I love how. Do these people have anything? Do they have shields?
Parachutes? Maybe.
Anything? Do they have Navy SEAL uniform? Like anything that we can? I just want to know if there's anything that we can like put across, because you mentioned the bridge is still there. It's just broken, right? It's like two halves, basically.
Yes.
Like, if there's any way that we could put something across, if they have axes, maybe we can chop down a small tree, just something that we could stretch across the chasm.
Yeah, like one guy has a bridge.
It's just like a 60-foot rope bridge. He's just gonna throw across it. I mean, like, why all you had to do was ask?
Will this help? I don't know if it will, but I got this thing.
I never
bridge. All of these people jumping to their deaths. Rudy is their savior, and he dies. They all die.
You never asked the name of our tribe. We are the bridge builders. So, it's absolutely possible. They would definitely have workers' axes and things of that nature. You could absolutely cut down a tree, especially with your own weapons as well. I mean, Diggs is a big dude. He's got some glaives. He's got his glaives on and ladies' gloves. So you can...
Hey, they're unisex. They're unisex.
This is equally the most serious and most hilarious game we've ever played and run.
It's so true. But yeah, that actually is a really good idea. Now, I don't know how Featherfall works, but were you like halfway jumping, Rudy? Like, so, I assume you did that, right? I'm just
Rudy's over the edge. So you choose up to 5 falling creatures within range. A falling creature's rate of descent slows to 60 feet per round until the spell ends. If they land before it ends, no falling damage, whatever. So we can fall quite a long way before we hurt ourselves, but up to 5 creatures. So us and one more person in that party of other people.
I guess what I'm saying is we need to decide narratively if you jumped as they emerged. If you were like, come with me, everybody, and they were like, hey,
I did. The finger left, and basically the ogres fell. I jumped. I kind of cast it on everybody else. They can jump, but that's it. I'm done.
So Rudy is in the chasm because it's about 60 feet, and it's been about 1 round. So he's like standing near mashed ogres. And so that's where he is. And then absolutely. So Ephraim, are you sort of heading up this bridge building scenario?
I mean... Yeah, I would basically, I would just kind of look around, and I look and I see, one of these guys is holding an axe, and I look and I see, Diggs has got his halberd or whatever, and I would kind of like look at my companions. I would look at Diggs and I would look at Garrick, and I would say, can we build a bridge quickly?
If there are trees, I can get a start trying to strike one down, and I guess I would just immediately aim at a tree and aim my staff at a tree, and I'm going to send a blast.
Sure.
And that's going to be a 16 to hit. I don't know how this works with a tree.
You don't have to, honestly, you don't have to aim. I mean, roll for it. But, and I would say, especially too, with your experience working on a mill, you're always chopping firewood, building things, that sort of thing. So you'd probably be able to find the right tree or a couple of trees that you could cut down quickly that you don't think would break. So yeah, I'll set you to task. It would be only a few minutes. Garrick is a pretty big dude. He's not as big as Diggs, but he's unassuming, but I would say very powerful. So, yeah.
Cool.
All right. So, yeah, I guess I get a start by just sending a blast at a tree, and it kind of cracks it a little bit. But I imagine, yeah, me and a couple others set to work with axes, trying to just free it completely and carry this thing as well we can.
Sure.
Diggs would speak up to Ephraim. It could be just minutes before and he nods over to where what he, he'll say, where the knuckle landed could be minutes before he arrives or it arrives. And I mean, if it's just 1 to 4, I mean, I don't know. I imagine it's maybe even max 6 miles away, but these things are fast. This is these are warriors of the dismembered lord. This is no joke. It's even possible. He says, it's even possible we're already too late.
And Ephraim kind of looks at Diggs, and again, there's a few times where you sort of forget that Ephraim is barely a man. And this is one of those times when you're looking at him and you're like, it might be too late. And he's just kind of looking at you, just this kind of shell-shocked look. And then he shakes his head and he looks at you with his one good eye and he says, finish the bridge. I think I can slow him down a little bit. And he'll kind of like snap his fingers. I'm going to torch this forest. And he'll kind of rush off in the other direction away from Diggs without waiting for a reply.
Awesome.
There was no reply, just slackened jawed, stunned. But awesome. And then you know what? Diggs will go over to Garrick and help in any way he can. Or help people down the chasm or whatnot.
So you're able to, Garrick, you were talking about placing that tree. You're able to find a secure area. And even Rudy, from where you are, you're able to sort of guide them because you can see where it's broken the most from underneath. And the occasional ogre like sort of grabbing at you, but not finding purchase. The bridge, if you want to call it that, is at least across. You have a way across. It might be difficult for some of the children or even some of the older people to get across just the single tree. So you might have to figure out a way. You just have to figure something out to help them across. And everyone else would have to be very careful. So I don't know if you want to, whatever that looks like. Now, Ephraim, I know you had quite a mind to burn down some forest. So while you tell me what that looks like, Garrick and Diggs, if you guys could formulate some sort of plan, if you're going to start helping people across, like what that looks like, how you would do it, and especially how you would get some of those lesser people across. And Ephraim, so what are you doing, man?
So Ephraim runs a little deeper into the sort of sparse wilderness of this mountainous region, not too far from the bridge building. He can hear them shouting and working behind him, and he rushes into the woods and he kind of looks around. He sees the foliage, he sees the trees, and he thinks back and he remembers when he was young. He barely remembers this. He was maybe 4 or 5 years old at the time when he first did something that he shouldn't be able to. He burned a kid that was bullying him, or torched, something that was belonged to somebody else. And he remembers sitting there crying and wondering why he was able to do this. And he remembers the strong hand of his mother coming up behind him and laying her hand on his shoulder, and him asking her, why can I do this? I don't want to be able to do this. And her telling him that this is a gift. It's the only thing your father has ever given you. It belongs to you. And she poked him in the chest. And Ephraim kind of reaches up and touches his chest, and he remembers being able to command this fire when he was in danger, but never really being able to control it to its full extent. And for the first time, he will intentionally cast Burning Hands, and he locks his hands together in this V shape and presses them forward, and flames just explode out of his hands. And he kind of like he does like an arc with it, just kind of spreading it as far as it'll go. And then it's gone. It fizzles out and there's just a puff of smoke. The trees, the foliage are up in flames. And he kind of nods. And then for good measure, he creates bonfire in a place that isn't burning. Just kind of creating a bonfire in one area. He nods, seeing that the flame is spreading and that it's creating this kind of curtain of fire almost as it quickly spreads in the dry foliage and the leaves of the trees. He nods and then runs back to the bridge.
And as you do this, so that I would say the closest trees, if just they're gone, they're ash immediately, just like, and as you do this, and this flame grips this entire area as you cast bonfire, you, I would say, hear more than see. A crossbow bolt whiz past your head, and you catch sight of the Marrow, the first one, probably the leader, the quickest one. And you can't hear what he's saying, but and then you hear more as the woods begin to blaze. You only have moments to get those people across that bridge.
So I'm rushing back and I'm doing the Indiana Jones running out of the woods. Jacques, start the plane, Jacques. Like I'm running towards Garrick and Diggs. And I'm like, Marrow, they're coming. They're right behind me. We gotta go. And I would turn and draw out my sword and sort of stand facing the woods, holding my sword with both hands, waiting for everyone else to go across.
Garrick and I are funneling people across this makeshift tree bridge that we've formed. The way we kind of imagine it is we're taking turns carrying people across that need the help and morally supporting those who need to do it their dang selves. Though I'm not sure how you want to figure out which make it and which don't. But I think Diggs wouldn't say anything, but he feels very relieved that Marrow, this awful, dangerous enemy, is pouring out. He feels a little relieved because he knows what could be in any one of those fingers that drop out of the sky. As I'm sure we all do.
And Diggs, as you're helping these people across, it's almost like some of these people gravitate toward you. Same thing with you. So Garrick, like this particularly older woman who maybe is a little more handsy than she should be. It's kind of, and you're helping her across. And it's a bit of a chore, but she's sweet. And Diggs, the children are just like grabbing onto your back as you sort of, spider crawl them across. And just stinging, burning pain in your leg. You've got these children on your back. You're on this log. Garrick is ahead of you with this older woman. And out of the corner of your eye, you could see that some Marrow are flanking. They've come around the other side, and a crossbow bolt is in your leg. And the Marrow takes aim again, and it starts to load another bolt.
Okay, Diggs is going to rotate on this side of the tree. He's going to hold onto these kids, which are clutching to his back, and I imagine he's got this rope around his shoulder, so he's got them also. And so he's going to try to use his brawn, just pure Jeremiah Diggs brawn, to crawl across this tree sideways to keep the kids covered from the shooting.
And you do so.
Cool.
Do so. And you're just like you said, you're brawn sheer, dude. Yeah. And it's like thump, thump, thump. These bolts are just hitting the tree. And so there's only a few more people. And Ephraim, you can hear the fire spreading, but you can also hear the yelling, the commands being shouted. And it's more clear, as though the Marrow don't have their mouthpiece is over, you just hear, "Go, go, get them! You have orders, go!" And you hear them all around you.
So are there any people left on this side of the chasm?
Probably just say Matthias and the woman who you were talking with.
How Hey James, how long does Featherfall last?
So
He's swimming.
I was going to say it's a minute concentration as long as I'm concentrating, but it lasts for 60 feet. So you guys have plenty of time, but you only have a certain amount of like range. So like you said, the chasm is, I think, about 60 feet, 40 to 60 feet.
Yeah.
As
Okay.
long as it's not more than that, you're fine for about a minute, as long as nothing happens to me. Which I think we're good.
And you cast it on all of us. So if I fall into the chasm, I'm good, right?
Yeah, basically me, the
You're
three of
like,
you.
in theory.
According to the spell description, no. Yeah, so me and 5 falling creatures. So I forgot there was only 4 of us. Me, well, I guess, yeah. So I'm one of them. So basically, me, the 3 of us, and one other person. I don't know, as needed, I guess. I'm not sure Rudy would choose someone. But yeah, you're good if you jump over this chasm. You're feather falling for 60 feet.
Okay, so I grab Matthias and this woman and just shove them towards the bridge. And I'm like, go, I'll be fine. I have a way out of here. And I'm going to turn. And so you said there was a Marrow that's kind of broken the tree line that's firing crossbow bolts at Diggs?
Flanked. So to your left, I'm talking like hard flank, like just
Yeah. Okay, I'm like shoving these 2 people towards the bridge, and I turn and I see this Marrow, and he's like loading another bolt, and he levels it, and I like follow his line of sight, and I see Diggs, and Diggs has already taken a crossbow bolt. He's Boromiring on this bridge with hobbits on his back, and I point towards this Marrow, and 3 lances of fiery energy streak towards this Marrow as I cast Magic Missile. And I deal 4, 7, 11 damage with this Magic Missile. So it's just like, and they both go, they both hit him, or all 3 of them hit him.
Yeah, and as they do so, they knock him into the fire. And so he's definitely unconscious, and he definitely falls into the fire. It's likely he will die.
Perfect. And then if everyone's on the bridge, I'm probably going to wait until everyone's across. So I'll stay where I am.
Okay. And then Garrick, I know you were helping an elderly woman across. Diggs, you are still toward the end there. Do you want to give me a strength check?
Yep, I do. That was an actual roll. That was me trying to pick up my die and failing. That is a natural 20.
All right.
Plus my athletics is 23.
Okay.
24. Sorry, I read the wrong number. That it matters. It's really important.
No, it does matter because in addition to doing what you're doing, there's the dude Jonas who's taking a whiz in the woods. He's crawling across, and he's one of the people who can do it his own dang self, right? And he slips. And with you manage to, with one hand bear hugging the log, you catch him by the shirt. And you curl this dude back onto the log and push him toward the side.
And then he gets shot with a crossbow bolt. No, exactly. No, I toss him up. The kids that were on my back find their way to climb off, and I have never done anything more heroic in my life. It's the opposite of what Diggs was at one point, and he probably doesn't even realize that now.
So, Ephraim, you see that, Garrick? You are essentially helping the last few elderly people across. And so you're on the other side. Is there anything you want to do? Do you want to help Jonas? And then what about Rudy? You're down below. Is there anything in particular you want to be doing before the last person gets across?
So yeah, there's that episode of The Simpsons where he sings about the monorail floating as softly as a cloud. That sounds about like what Rudy's doing. No, Rudy had hopped over, and unbeknownst to him, all of this stuff is happening. I mean, he's probably 10, 20 feet below.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's just concentrating on his feather fall and hoping that nobody, makes a big old splatter on the ground. But Rudy probably wasn't even, he was over the edge before people even broke through that tree line, or at the very moment. So yeah, there's not much he's doing except for hoping that the people that he's been traveling with recently make it safely to the ground.
Ephraim, you can hear many more voices in the tree line, and everyone's across.
Everyone is safely across the bridge.
Yes, except Diggs is just strengthening his way. He's fine.
Yeah,
He'll
I'm
be fine.
not super worried about Diggs. He can handle it. So I turn and I've got my sword in my hand, and there's like smoke coming off my other hand from me casting this magic missile, which I've never done before. I'm very surprised that worked. And I turn and I see the Marrow kind of coming out of the woods. They're breaking through the fire, breaking through the trees. They have swords, crossbow bolts. They come out and they're just staring me down, and they're coming towards me. And I turn and I look at him and I go, I'll see you all in hell. And I just step off backwards and fall into the chasm, Marty McFly style.
That's amazing. So Ephraim, take a point of inspiration for that whole thing. The bonfire, the story, everything there. That is some Dragon Grin inspiration, my dude, for sure.
It's a bonfire. Turn the lights out.
That got me. So everyone's across, and the Marrow break through the tree lines, and there are many of them. For those of you who are across, which would be Garrick and Diggs, you're now standing sort of at the edge of this red mist. To those of you in the chasm, which would be Ephraim and Rudy, you can see directly above you, and there's really no way you can see to get out of there directly in front of you. A different sort of Marrow steps. Fire is roaring, smoke, and this sort of silhouette. And this Marrow with this red ridge across his helmet. These emblems, this cloak, sort of blowing in the fire. He steps across and he walks slowly toward the chasm. Other Marrow begin to emerge, avoiding the woods that are on fire. With them, they have someone, looks male, some sort of canvas sack over their head. This Marrow walks to the edge of the bridge, carefully removes his helmet, and he says, "Hello, Diggs." Diggs, you would recognize this person immediately. This is Meyer Holden, someone who you served under. I believe I have something I'd like to speak with all of you about. Meyer has starkly beautiful black hair, striking blue eyes, sharp features. He looks like an officer. He snaps his fingers. Here. The person with the canvas bag over their head has their hands bound behind their back. They don't fight. They don't struggle. They stand. I see that you've all worked very hard to, well, be big damn heroes. Bravo. However, and he pulls the canvas bag off of his head. And Diggs, you immediately recognize Malachi, who was your son for so long. And Malachi says, Dad, I mean, Diggs, we need to talk. And that's where we're going to end it.
Hey-o.
Listen, I'm not lying when I say that the last hour of that game was the tensest I've ever been in a D&D game before.
Right? Holy cow.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
That was pretty serious.
Burning the forest down, the feather
Yeah.
fall, the freaking ogres, the finger dropping from the sky. My favorite, this was my favorite, I think, in any session, my favorite first opening scene of just starting to role play. Role playing, hanging out at the camp. That was just natural. It felt really cool. And this was a blast. And Malachi saying the thing, like if you go back and you watch that, I promise you watch this YouTube stream, when you say that what Malachi says, you know, we need to talk. I'm like, what? Why would Malachi say that? Like, what? What's that? And then at that moment, you're like, and then we finish. So I'm like,
No. Yep. It's like an episode of The Winchester Chalene. What's that about?
what is that about? I've never heard of that. We had some people talking about that in the chat today. We had a lot of cool chat stuff. I wasn't super in the chat, but every time I went over, someone was. There were people donating money to Tabletop Terrors for all.
What is that about?
Do. Someone,
I was in the chat because I jumped
$10.
over a chasm. Tim, somebody gave us a $10.
And someone donated earlier too. Like it was just a.
Oh yeah, that Fahad earlier.
That's incredible. Oh my gosh.
Cody.
So now
20 did the $10 tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude,
that was
thanks
really
so
awesome.
much, man. So Cody says, when are you guys having a guest on? Dude, we'll work it out. We have not yet had a guest on because we just we tend to have a really difficult time lining up for schedules.
Listen, I don't know what you're talking about. I've had my cats on every single session. They're guests.
We do have Seth MacFarlane on the list, and we have Condoleezza Rice coming up in the next few weeks.
And Condoleezza Rice, of all the names in the world.
That was
Listen, D&D bucket list.
perfect. Yes.
D&D bucket list.
I know she played D&D growing up. You know it.
Listen,
Oh man.
How do you think she made it that far?
creativity, problem solving, we know what it does. Thank you all for tuning in. Guys, this was probably my favorite session of the campaign so far, by a pretty wide margin.
Yeah, man.
And so I want to say one thing to anyone who's planning on running a game, and it's this. My notes consisted of Catherine's dad, and they have to get across a chasm.
His notes were so incomplete that he's called her Catherine instead of Kathleen. Guys,
Oh,
that's how incomplete this guy's prep notes.
That stands second to Rudolph.
Rudolph, right? I'm right there with you.
But the main thing that I want to tell you to do is, if you enjoyed this game and you like playing in Dragon Grin, please consider backing us on Kickstarter. There's a link in the description. And if you really want to see some Dragon Grin, you got to check it out. This coming Wednesday on A Fistful of Dice's YouTube channel, I am playing with Barker Matt is running the game, and Jim Moreno from Geek and Sundry will be joining us. This is Matt's very first game in
Ever.
Dragon
Just my
Grid.
first
Ever.
game.
His training wheels are coming off right as soon as they went on.
He's gonna learn how to DM live
Matt,
on camera.
Do you want to tell us a brief teaser for the game to get everybody stoked?
Yeah, so I am running my first game in Dragon Grin next Wednesday. And like Tim said, it's going to be Tim, it's going to be Barker, and it's going to be our friend Jim Moreno, who writes for Geek and Sundry. Super awesome guy. It's actually his first online D&D game, so it'll be a game of first. But the game is called It Speaketh Only Doom, and it's going to be about 3 heroes in Dragon Grin who have fallen on the bad side of the Dismembered Lord and are now being hunted by one of his most powerful servants. So it should be super fun and super metal. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm really looking forward to running a game in Dragon Grin.
That's gonna be so metal.
Yeah, dude, if there's one dude who knows metal, it's Matt Click. It's Mathias Click. So thank you all for tuning in. I want to do some outros. I don't want this to end, but I know that it's getting late for everybody. So I'm going to go this time from my left to my right. On the far left is Barker.
Hi guys, I'm Barker and I play Jeremiah Diggs, and this is an awesome campaign. Remember my 30-day world. It's something that I'm going to be jumping back into, and you should jump into as well, because we want to learn about what your world is as well as ours, Dragon Grin on Kickstarter. And Tim, this was awesome. This was a really cool session, and I agree. I think it was the best session, and there are a lot of really good sessions in this campaign, so it's not, it's still standing on the shoulders of giants. So yeah, awesome game.
Dude, thank you. It was a blast to run. And James.
Yeah, like Barker said, this was so much fun. I had the hiccups like a prospector for about a third of it, but Cassie reminded me to hold some breath in my lungs, and I guess that helped. I don't know. And I was good. But yeah, this was really fun. And I decided especially to really explore a little more of Rudy and Randolph, not Rudolph, as you might have expected, because apparently I said it wrong. So yeah, this was so much fun. I also really can't wait to see Matt run in Dragon Grin. It's going to be a lot of fun. Sadly, I can't be a part of that game, but I will watch it. But really, this game reminded me how much I want to just GM games in general. Maybe one day when I have a free minute, I'll do that. But yeah, it was awesome. Man, it was great.
Matt.
Hey guys, I'm Matt. I play Ephraim Seidler, who has mommy issues, daddy issues, and all kinds, and eye issues and magic issues. So he's a really fun character to play. This was an awesome game. I had a ton of fun. I can't wait to run my Dragon Grin game next week and go back us on Kickstarter, man. That book is going to be full of awesome stuff like this, like all the stat blocks for all the different kinds of Marrow, crazy challenges like we faced today, trying to forage for food and stuff like that. So you want to play in Dragon Grin, definitely consider backing us on Kickstarter. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome, man. And Nate.
Yeah, my name is Nate. You can find me on YouTube and other places, WASD20. And I get to play Garrick Braunleaf, who is a human warlock and son of a miller. And this was a lot of fun. Thanks, Tim. I can also say that I am the only one here in the Hangout who has I backed the Kickstarter Dead Man's Guide to Dragon Grin on Kickstarter with my $55 on Kickstarter.com. You guys have backed it with a lot of money too, I know, and a lot of hours. So yeah, but I'm really excited, and I can't wait to get my hands on that bad boy.
Dude, I got to be honest, Nate, it's tempting. It's tempting. Like, it's not going to help you to back it, but you're still looking at your own Kickstarter like, come on, man. I mean, why not? Why not?
You're like, oh, come on, $55. That's so reasonable for
We're
a book.
actually we're
Big deal.
We found a trick, and we're gonna take $30,000 out of our account and then pledge it to the Kickstarter. So we're effectively doubling our money somehow that I haven't quite figured out yet. So it's gonna work out.
Exactly.
That's how money works.
There's this guy, he knows. There's a guy I know. He said he could double our money. It's gonna be awesome. It's so cool. Something about a loan shark. I wouldn't worry too much about that, but
A Ponzi scheme. Kickstarter, Ponzi.
Sort of light fraud. He mentioned that.
Some light fraud.
German, I don't know.
Oh man. Well, I'm going to call it here. I really thank everybody for watching. Thank you for considering backing us on Kickstarter, and be sure to subscribe to all these awesome channels. We love you guys. May you mend the first break. May you kill the first snake, and may you conquer.
And may you conquer everything
you undertake.
Also, all of the lags that you have, and we sound separately.
Laggy slancha.